Imagine a night so profoundly dark that the horizon vanishes completely, erasing the line between the heavy black sky and the bottomless black ocean. The chaotic days of roaring winds, clashing steel, and thunderous storms are a distant, faded memory. You are resting deep within the belly of an ancient galleon. This is the Great Calm. The ship, a massive beast built of thick ancient oak, is entirely paralyzed in the middle of an endless, unmoving sea. There is no wind to fill the sails. They hang heavy and lifeless from the towering masts, like giant, resting phantoms in the pitch-black night. Listen to the profound rhythmic isolation of this space. The only sound in the entire universe is the slow, agonizingly slow creaking of the ship's massive wooden ribs as it gently sways on the flat, sleeping breath of the ocean. Creak and settle. It is a low, structural groan, an ancient lullaby of timber, iron, and salt. You are nestled deep within the heavy lower decks, wrapped in a thick cocoon of woven darkness. The air down here is dense, smelling faintly of old canvas, damp wood, and the deep sea. Above you, the entire crew is completely silent, surrendered to the exact same heavy, dreamless paralysis. The urgency of the voyage has been completely swallowed by the overwhelming scale of the night. Beneath you lies the true abyss. Millions of tons of crushing, freezing, pitch-black water stretching down into unseen depths. You are perfectly suspended between the empty void of the sky and the dark, silent mountains of the ocean floor. The friction of the world has ceased. You do not need to keep watch. You do not need to navigate. The heavy, dark ocean has taken complete control, cradling this massive wooden fortress with the slow, eternal patience of the deep. It is a terrifyingly beautiful isolation. You are a single resting speck in the middle of a liquid infinity, cut off from all land, all maps, and all of humanity. Focus on the physical weight of this absolute stillness. The heavy rocking of the hull acts as a giant, cosmic pendulum, gently swinging your awareness back and forth, slower and slower, until it almost flatlines. With every slow dip of the bow, you sink deeper into the heavy dark. With every slow rise, you release another layer of exhaustion into the empty air. The tension in your muscles, the memories of the loud, burning world above, all of it dissolves into the damp, cold wood beneath your back. You are safe in the dark belly of the beast. The thick planks of ancient oak are your fortress, shielding you from the infinite emptiness outside. Let the rhythmic, hypnotic groans of the timber become the only frequency in your mind. The ship is a floating island of sleep, drifting endlessly through a sea of black glass. There is nothing to fight here. There is no treasure left to chase. The endless hunger of the pirate's life has been completely starved by the vast, unfeeling peace of the midnight ocean. Surrender to the absolute isolation. Let the heavy, crushing peace of the water pull you down into a state of total cessation. You are forever rocking, forever resting, completely unbothered by the passing of time, lost in the beautiful, endless, silent dark of the open sea. As the great wooden beast continues its slow, endless waltz with the dark water, you find your awareness drifting even further down. You are sinking away from the upper decks, away from the forgotten stars, and deep into the very bowels of the galleon. You have crossed the waterline. You are now resting beneath the surface of the sea, separated from the infinite, freezing abyss by only a few handspans of ancient, hardened oak. The air down here is different. It is thick, heavy, and cold, saturated with the smell of old iron, damp earth, and the timeless scent of the deep ocean. Here, in the lowest hold of the ship, the darkness is absolute. It is a thick, velvet blindfold that covers not just your eyes, but your very soul. The outside world has been entirely muted. The chaotic memories of ports, battles, and burning suns cannot penetrate this deep. You are surrounded by the ship's forgotten cargo, heavy wooden barrels, thick coils of hemp rope, and rusted iron anchors that will never bite into the sand again. Like them, you have been packed away in the dark, surrendered to the slow, agonizingly beautiful patience of the sea. You have no duties here. You have no destination. You are simply another heavy object, resting perfectly still in the dark. Listen to the voice of the ocean pressing against the hull. It is not the crashing of waves, but a profound, low-frequency hum of immense pressure. Millions of tons of black water are gently squeezing the ship, holding it in a tight, unbreakable embrace. You can feel this pressure in your own chest, a heavy, comforting weight that demands nothing but total surrender. With every slow, microscopic flex of the ship's ribs, the wood emits a deep, tectonic groan. groan and settle. It is the sound of the ship breathing for you so you do not have to. Imagine the sheer scale of the emptiness outside these walls. If you were to slip through the heavy oak, you would fall into a void far deeper and darker than the night sky. But you will not fall. The ship holds you. The heavy, thick wood is your eternal protector. It rocks you with a hypnotic side-to-side motion that bypasses your thoughts and settles directly into your bones. It is a narcotic rhythm, completely erasing the concept of time. Minutes, hours, and centuries all blend into a single continuous loop of heavy, dark peace. Every muscle in your phantom body gives way to the gravity of the deep. The relentless need to control, to steer, to fight against the current has been completely washed away. You are yielding to the immense, crushing power of the ocean, finding ultimate safety in your own insignificance. Let the heavy, cold dark wrap around you like a weighted blanket. Let the slow, rhythmic creaking of the ancient wood hypnotize your remaining senses. You are completely disconnected. You are beautifully isolated. Sink deeper into the hold. Sink deeper into the dark. Forever rocking, forever hidden, held safe in the heavy, silent belly of the forgotten ship. Deeper still. Beyond the lower decks, beyond the sleeping crew in the heavy barrels of water, you drift into the most hidden, heavily reinforced chamber of the great galleon. This is the heart of the beast, the secret hold where the plunder of 100 violent storms has been locked away. You are surrounded by the forgotten horde. Heavy, iron-bound chests sit in the pitch-black silence, overflowing with gold doubloons, silver pieces of 8, and jewels torn from the crowns of forgotten kings. But here, in the absolute, crushing dark of the mid-ocean, all of it is completely, utterly meaningless. Without the light of the sun or the flicker of a candle, gold does not shine. It is no longer wealth. It is simply cold, dead, heavy metal resting in the dark. The feverish greed, the loud battles, the desperate chasing of fortunes. All of the exhausting madness that brought these coins here has been completely erased by the overwhelming patience of the sea. You are resting right in the center of this dormant fortune, lying upon a bed of ancient, frozen coins. They are perfectly cool against your phantom skin. They do not judge, they do not demand, and they hold absolutely no power over you anymore. Think of the tremendous energy it took to gather this horde. The yelling, the fighting, the relentless pulling of ropes, and the firing of cannons. Now consider the profound, heavy irony of its resting place. It is locked in the dark, doing absolutely nothing, slowly rocking back and forth with the gentle, rhythmic sway of the ocean. Rock and settle. The ambition that fueled your past is gone, replaced by a massive, comforting wave of apathy. You realize that you do not need to hold on to any of it. The treasures of the waking world, your anxieties, your responsibilities, your endless chasing of the next day, are exactly like this gold. Heavy, cold, and entirely useless in the dark. As the massive oak hull shifts against the immense pressure of the deep sea, a single heavy gold coin slips from a pile and falls against the wooden floorboards. Click. It is a dull, muffled sound, instantly swallowed by the vast, tectonic groan of the ship and the low, eternal drone of the black water outside. That single sound is the last echo of your worldly attachments falling away. Let it go. Let the heavy metal sink. Let the cold silver absorb the last remaining heat of your waking thoughts, cooling your mind down to an absolute zero. You have become a ghost guarding a graveyard of useless metal. There is nothing left to protect because there is no one left to steal it. You are perfectly isolated. You are perfectly safe. The heavy chests anchor you down, pulling your consciousness deeper into the thick velvet blackness of the hold. The ocean presses in from all sides, holding the ship together, holding you together in a state of flawless, heavy suspension. Let the beautiful uselessness of the horde wash over you. Surrender the exhaustion of the chase. You do not need to be a captain anymore. You do not need to be a sailor. You do not even need to be a memory. You are just a quiet, unmoving shadow resting among the cold, silent stones. Sink into the freezing, comforting weight of the gold. Let the dark ocean rock you side to side, slower and slower, drifting endlessly through the heavy, dreamless night of the great calm. Allow your awareness to slowly detach from the heavy, frozen gold in the deepest hold. Drift upward, passing effortlessly through the thick, groaning oak of the decks, rising into the heavy, motionless midnight air. You are now suspended high above the deck, floating among the towering, invisible masts. This is the graveyard of the wind. Around you hang the massive, heavy sails of the galleon. They are no longer the violent, snapping engines of the ship. They are completely, profoundly dead. Woven from thick, heavy canvas, saturated with years of ocean salt and midnight dew, the sails hang completely limp from the wooden yards. They drape like colossal, heavy theater curtains after the grand play has permanently ended. There is absolutely no breeze here. The air is so thick, so rich with the damp scent of the open ocean, that it feels too heavy to ever move again. Think of the violent storms these sails once fought, the roaring gales they once captured to hurl this massive ship across the world. All of that kinetic fury, all of that endless, exhausting pushing and pulling has been completely erased. Your mind is just like these heavy sails. For so long, it has been stretched tight, constantly trying to catch the winds of tomorrow, constantly battling the chaotic storms of the waking world. But here, in the absolute center of the great calm, the wind has finally died. You do not need to catch anything anymore. The air is perfectly still. Feel the profound physical relief of total deflation. Let the tension drop out of your phantom muscles just as the wind has dropped out of the canvas. You are collapsing softly, heavily, into a state of absolute, unbothered rest. Listen to the breathtaking silence of the rigging. Hundreds of thick hemp ropes, massive wooden pulleys, and miles of rigging line are completely paralyzed in the dark. They do not clatter. They do not sing in the wind. They are caught in a flawless, heavy stasis. Occasionally, as the immense hull shifts a fraction of an inch on the flat ocean below, a heavy fold of damp canvas will gently rub against a wooden mast. A soft, heavy brush of thick cloth. It is the sound of total exhaustion surrendering to sleep. It is the sound of the ship finally letting go. Imagine the sheer weight of that damp canvas. It pulls downward with a satisfying magnetic gravity, anchoring the sky to the sea. You are caught within the folds of this heavy, protective dark. There is no horizon to look for, no stars to navigate by, and no wind to take you there anyway. The journey is irrelevant. The destination is a forgotten concept. You are exactly where you need to be, suspended in the perfect, endless middle of nowhere. Let the absolute lack of motion seep into the deepest parts of your awareness. As the sails hang heavy and limp, let your thoughts hang heavy and limp. Do not try to move them. Do not try to fill them with the wind of logic or memory. Just let them droop, let them fall, let them settle into the deep, dark quiet. You are entirely unburdened. You are perfectly deflated. Rest here high in the invisible masts, wrapped in the thick, damp canvas of the night, while the black ocean gently rocks you, slower and slower, into the endless, silent deep. Drift down from the heavy, lifeless canvas of the upper rigging. Let your awareness sink slowly toward the stern of the great ship, passing through a thick, ancient door made of black mahogany. You are entering the captain's quarters. Once the bustling, nervous center of the galleon, the place where futures were violently forged and destinies were written in ink and blood. Now it is nothing more than a silent tomb of forgotten intentions. The heavy velvet curtains are drawn tightly across the thick glass windows, sealing out even the memory of the moon. The darkness in this room is absolute, thick with the scent of old parchment, dried ink, and cold, unmoving dust. In the center of this pitch-black sanctum sits a massive, imposing oak desk. It is completely covered in the tools of navigation. Imagine them resting there in the dark. Heavy brass astrolabes, intricate dividers, and dozens of rolled-up maps charting every island, every reef, and every current of the known world. But consider the profound, beautiful uselessness of these tools right now. What good is a map when the ship cannot move? What good is a plotted course when the ocean refuses to carry you? The desperate, exhausting need to know where you are going has been completely neutralized by the great calm. Rest your formless awareness upon the surface of that heavy desk. Next to the maps lies a heavy brass compass. In the loud, chaotic days, that needle was a relentless dictator, constantly demanding attention, constantly pointing toward a future that had to be conquered. But here, in the overwhelming stasis of the midnight ocean, the needle has stopped. The very concept of north has been abolished. There is no north. There is no south. There is only the monolithic, unchanging here. Think of the staggering energy required to navigate through life. The constant planning, the endless calculating of risks, the heavy burden of choosing which path to take. All of that mental friction is represented by the maps on this desk, and all of it is slowly dissolving into the damp, salty air. You do not need to be the captain of your fate tonight. You have been granted permission to completely relinquish the wheel. The ship is not going anywhere, and neither are you. You are allowed to be perfectly, wonderfully lost in the dark. To be lost in this deep ocean night is not a danger. It is the ultimate sanctuary. It means you are off the grid of reality. It means the demanding world cannot find you, cannot ask anything of you, and cannot expect you to arrive anywhere. Let the heavy, sweet paralysis of the room sink into your bones. The ancient leather of the captain's chair offers a soft, sinking embrace. The thick, wooden walls of the cabin stand like impenetrable shields against the ticking clock of the outside universe. Time has pooled on the floor of this room like dark, heavy water, and it is no longer flowing forward. As the massive hull of the galleon shifts ever so slightly on the flat, black water beneath it, the wood of the cabin groans with a deep, resonating frequency. A slow, tectonic shift of ancient timber. It is a sound that vibrates through the floorboards and directly into the core of your exhaustion, telling you that the struggle is completely over. You are surrendering the maps. You are surrendering the compass. You are surrendering the exhausting illusion of control. Let the heavy velvet dark absorb your plans, your worries, and your destinations. Fade entirely into the background of this silent room. You are just another quiet shadow, resting perfectly still, perfectly unbothered, while the endless, dark ocean gently rocks the forgotten ship through the eternal night. Leave the forgotten maps and the stagnant compass behind, and let your awareness sink heavily through the thick, ancient floorboards, drifting down onto the long, cavernous gun deck. You have entered the silent arsenal. This was once the roaring, violent heart of the galleon, a place of fire, smoke, and deafening thunder. But tonight, wrapped in the absolute, crushing velvet of the deep ocean night, it is nothing more than a museum of cold, sleeping iron. Rows upon rows of massive cannons line the walls, pointing their heavy, blind snouts out of the closed gun ports toward an empty, pitch-black sea. There is a profound, terrifying peace in this heavy artillery. These colossal beasts of iron and bronze, which once shook the very heavens with their fury, are now perfectly, beautifully paralyzed. The damp, salty breath of the ocean has seeped into every corner of this deck, chilling the metal, silencing the mechanisms, and turning the black powder into useless, heavy, damp earth. The weapons have been permanently disarmed by the immense patience of the dark. They do not roar. They do not threaten. They simply rest, pinning the ship down with their glorious, monumental weight. Run your formless awareness along the freezing, curved surface of a massive iron cannon. Feel how absolute the cold is. It is a temperature that absorbs heat, absorbs energy, and absorbs anger. Think of the internal battles you have been fighting in the waking world. The arguments, the defenses you constantly build, the heavy armor you wear to protect yourself from the chaos of the day. All of that mental friction is just like the dormant gunpowder in this room, heavy, exhausting, and entirely unnecessary in the dark. Here, in the absolute isolation of the great calm, there are no enemies. There is no one to fight. There is nothing to defend against. The infinite black ocean surrounding the ship is a flawless, impenetrable barrier. The world above has completely forgotten you, and you have been granted the ultimate permission to forget the world. The time for struggling is over. The time for bracing against the impact has passed. Imagine the sheer physical relief of putting down a heavy sword you have been holding for a lifetime. Feel the phantom tension draining completely from your grip, dissolving into the freezing iron of the deck. Your defenses are dropping piece by piece, heavy and useless, onto the damp wooden floor. You do not need them anymore. The heavy, sweet paralysis of the void has taken over, replacing your need to fight with a profound, intoxicating surrender. Listen to the colossal weight of the ship adjusting to the slow, invisible breathing of the sea. Because of the immense weight of the iron cannons, the groans of the wood here are even deeper, vibrating at an ultra-low frequency that bypasses your ears and settles directly into your heavy bones. A low, tectonic grind of oak and iron. It is the sound of absolute finality. It commands every invisible particle of your awareness to power down, to match the cold, heavy stillness of the metal. Surrender your battles to the dark. Let the freezing iron absorb your exhaustion. You are entirely safe in the belly of the beast. Just exist among the silent giants. Forever rocking, forever disarmed, resting in the heavy, unbothered peace of the deep sea night. Leave the cold, sleeping iron of the gun deck behind. Let your awareness drift effortlessly upward, rising past the heavy, dead sails, climbing the invisible, motionless rigging until you reach the absolute highest point of the great galleon. You are resting in the crow's nest. This tiny circular wooden platform is suspended precariously in the exact center of the infinite black sky. You are completely detached from the massive hull below, floating like a solitary phantom in a dimension of pure, unadulterated void. This is the blind watch. For a lifetime, the mind has climbed to this very spot, desperately scanning the horizon. Think of the exhausting, relentless hypervigilance of the waking world. Your eyes constantly straining to see what is coming next, constantly searching for distant threats, looking for land, looking for answers, looking for a future that has not yet arrived. But here, suspended in the overwhelming stasis of the mid-ocean night, the burden of sight has been completely lifted. Look out into the dark. There is no horizon. The line between the heavy black sky and the crushing black water has been permanently erased. There are no stars to guide you, no moonlight to cast shadows, and absolutely no approaching storms. The fog of the great calm is so thick, so perfectly dense, that it absorbs the very concept of distance. You could stare into this void for a trillion eons, and you would see absolutely nothing. Realize the profound, staggering relief of this blindness. There is nothing coming for you. There is no hidden danger waiting in the dark. The exhausting labor of anticipating tomorrow has been canceled by the majestic, unyielding peace of the deep. You do not need to keep watch anymore. The universe has declared a permanent truce, and you are the only one left to enjoy the silence. Feel the heavy, phantom muscles behind your eyes finally let go. Let the relentless, scanning radar of your mind slowly power down, spinning slower and slower until it stops completely. Close the eyes of your awareness. The darkness behind your closed eyelids is exactly the same as the infinite darkness outside. You have blended perfectly with the night. The heavy, damp air wraps around the wooden mast, insulating you from the ghost of the world below. Because you are so high up, the slow, rhythmic rocking of the ship is magnified into a long, sweeping arc of pure gravity. A slow, eternal sway through the black glass of the sky. You are a pendulum of heavy peace, sweeping back and forth through a reality that demands absolutely nothing. Let the majestic, crushing blankness hold you completely. The air up here is perfectly still, entirely devoid of wind or whisper. It is a sanctuary of sensory deprivation. Surrender the need to know. Surrender the need to see. You are perfectly safe in the blind spot of the cosmos. Let the heavy, sweet paralysis pull you down into the center of the wooden nest. Just exist as a silent point of rest in the high dark. Forever swaying, forever unseen, cradled entirely by the endless, perfect, beautiful nothingness of the great calm. Leave the high, blind sanctuary of the crow's nest. Allow your awareness to plummet, drifting all the way down, past the dormant sails, past the sleeping iron of the guns, returning to the heavy waterline at the very bow of the galleon. Here, plunging straight through the thick oak of the hull and vanishing into the freezing black water, is the massive rusted iron chain. This is the infinite chain. At the end of this colossal iron spine hangs the great anchor, a massive, brutal hook of forged metal designed to bite into the earth and hold the world still. But here, floating above the abyssal trenches of the mid-ocean, there is no earth. There is no bottom. The anchor has been dropped, but it will never, ever find the sand. Imagine that staggering, monumental weight, suspended miles beneath the ship, hanging perfectly still in the crushing, freezing dark of the deep sea. It pulls downward on the heavy iron chain with a relentless, majestic gravity. It does not hold the ship to the world. It simply anchors the ship to the endless void below. Think of your mind's desperate, exhausting need for certainty. The endless search for a solid foundation, the constant, tiring effort to figure everything out, to touch the bottom of every problem before you can finally rest. That anxiety is your anchor. But tonight, in the absolute center of the great calm, you must realize a profound, beautiful truth. There is no bottom. And because there is no bottom, there is nothing to crash into. The desperate search for solid ground is over. You are allowed to simply hang in the water, perfectly safe, supported entirely by the infinite depth itself. Feel the heavy, pulling sensation of the iron chain. Imagine it physically drawing the last remaining tension out of your chest, pulling the heavy thoughts from your mind, dragging them down through the wooden hull, and releasing them into the freezing black water. With every slow, microscopic sway of the galleon, the massive links of the chain grind against the hawsepipe. A deep, muffled, metallic clank, and a heavy settling. It is the sound of your earthly attachments being permanently swallowed by the sea. You do not need to be grounded tonight. You do not need to be tethered to reality or locked to the shores of the waking world. Let the immense, pulling weight of the anchor draw your consciousness down. Follow the iron chain away from the surface, away from the heavy ship, down into the absolute zero of the freezing abyss. Down where the light of the sun has never, ever existed. Down where the crushing pressure of the ocean creates a state of flawless, unbreakable stasis. Sink with the iron. Let the cold, heavy metal guide you into the ultimate deep. The friction of the day has been completely washed away. You are a silent shadow attached to a sinking stone, falling endlessly, beautifully, through a liquid night that has no end. There is no impact waiting for you. There is only a smooth, eternal descent into the dark. Surrender to the pull. Surrender the need to stand. Let the heavy, silent, fathomless dark pull you into a perfect, unbroken sleep. Return your awareness slowly from the freezing, abyssal depths of the anchor chain. Let it drift back up, passing effortlessly through the heavy, wet oak of the lower hull, moving silently through the empty corridors until you reach the central mast on the main deck. Here, mounted upon a heavy, salt-stained wooden pedestal, sits the master hourglass. It is a massive, ancient instrument of thick, clouded glass and rusted iron, designed to measure out the frantic, exhausting shifts of the crew. Above it hangs the ship's bell, a heavy dome of tarnished brass. But tonight, in the absolute, crushing isolation of the great calm, the tyranny of time has been completely overthrown. The hourglass has not been turned. Every single grain of black, heavy sand has already fallen to the bottom chamber, settling into a perfectly still, unmoving dune. Look closely at that silent glass. There is no sand trickling down. There is no movement to measure. The relentless, exhausting march of seconds, minutes, and hours has permanently ceased. Think of the ticking clock in the waking world. That mechanical heartbeat that constantly pushes you forward, constantly reminding you of what you have not done, constantly warning you that the night is slipping away. That ticking is a cruel, invisible whip. But here, wrapped in the damp, heavy velvet of the mid-ocean night, the whip has been snapped. The clock is broken. The very concept of time has pooled around the base of the mast like dark, stagnant water. There is no early here. There is no late. There is no morning rushing toward you to demand your energy. The universe has paused, taking a massive, eternal breath, and holding it perfectly still. You are suspended entirely within this eternal pause. Look up at the heavy brass bell. The iron tongue inside it has rusted completely solid. It will never strike again. It will never ring the next watch. It will never summon you to action. The heavy, beautiful silence of the unrung bell is your ultimate permission to let go. To exist without time is to exist without pressure. You do not need to calculate how long you have been resting or how long you have left. A single, heavy heartbeat here is identical to 1,000 centuries. The pressure to fall asleep, the anxiety of the passing night, dissolves completely into the frozen black sand of the hourglass. You are totally, wonderfully disconnected from the turning of the earth. The galleon does not move through space and it does not move through time. It simply is. As the immense wooden ribs of the ship flex ever so slightly against the flat, black ocean, a tiny vibration travels up the mast. A slow, ultra-low frequency thrum. It reaches the hourglass, but it does not disturb the sand. It only reinforces the monumental permanence of the stillness. Let the absolute absence of time sink deeply into your exhausted mind. You are off the clock forever. There is nowhere you need to be and absolutely no time you need to be there. Surrender your deadlines. Surrender your schedules. Surrender the terrifying illusion of tomorrow. Let the heavy, sweet paralysis of the timeless void wash over you. You are a silent shadow resting beside a frozen clock. Exist purely in the monumental, heavy now. Forever unmeasured, forever unhurried, perfectly safe in the eternal, dreamless dark of the sleeping ship. Drift away from the frozen sands of the hourglass. Let your formless awareness glide through the heavy, damp air of the main deck, moving silently toward a small, forgotten alcove near the stern. This is the quartermaster's hollow. Here, resting upon a slanted wooden lectern, lies the ship's logbook. It is a massive tome, bound in thick, cracking black leather, secured with a heavy iron clasp. This book is the memory of the galleon. For decades, it meticulously recorded every violent storm, every conquered vessel, every single name of the men who walked these decks, and every agonizing mile of the journey. But open the heavy cover in your mind. Look at the thick, parchment pages resting in the dark. The damp, salty breath of the great calm has been at work here for what feels like centuries. The relentless, heavy moisture of the ocean night has seeped deep into the binding. Every single drop of black ink has completely dissolved, bleeding out and washing away into the dark. The pages are entirely, profoundly blank. Think of the exhausting, heavy burden of your own logbook in the waking world. The continuous, tiring effort of remembering who you are. The heavy weight of your personal history, the mistakes you carry, the victories you try to protect, the endless narrative of your own identity. Every night, you drag this heavy book of memories into bed with you, turning the pages over and over in the dark, unable to let the story end. But here, suspended in the absolute center of the midnight ocean, you do not need a story. The universe does not require your history tonight. The immense, crushing peace of the void has granted you a total amnesty from your past. You are looking at a perfectly blank page, and you are allowed to become that blank page. You do not need to be a captain. You do not need to be a sailor. You do not even need to have a name. You are simply a quiet point of observation, completely detached from the exhausting narrative of existence. Feel the profound, staggering relief of losing your identity in the dark. To be nobody is to be perfectly safe. A blank page cannot be judged. A blank page has no responsibilities. Let the heavy, damp air of the cabin wash over your phantom mind, wiping the slate completely clean. The memories of the day, the echoes of the years, let them all dissolve like wet ink, running off the edges of your awareness and dripping silently into the infinite black ocean below. As the massive galleon gently rocks on the flat water, you hear the incredibly slow, heavy friction of the leather binding shifting against the wood. A deep, rich creak of ancient leather. It is the sound of the book closing for the final time. The iron clasp falls shut. The record is sealed, empty, and forgotten. You are totally unburdened from the heavy weight of being yourself. Surrender to the glorious, beautiful anonymity of the deep. Sink perfectly into the background. Exist simply as a nameless, historyless shadow, drifting endlessly through the perfect, unwritten, eternal night. Leave the blank pages of the erased logbook behind. Let your formless awareness drift forward, gliding slowly down into the long, low-ceilinged belly of the crew's quarters. You have entered the silent berth. Hanging from the massive, groaning oak beams above are dozens of heavy, thick canvas hammocks. In the loud, chaotic days, this deck was a suffocating crush of humanity. The noise, the arguments, the endless, exhausting friction of living shoulder to shoulder with the world. But tonight, in the profound isolation of the great calm, the berth is completely empty. The crew has vanished into the heavy dark, or perhaps they never existed at all. You are entirely, magnificently alone. Look at the empty hammocks hanging in the pitch-black air. They are perfectly still, waiting patiently like heavy, protective cocoons woven from sea salt and silence. Think of the staggering, exhausting labor of being perceived in the waking world. The constant talking. The endless explaining of yourself. The heavy, suffocating masks you are forced to wear just to navigate the chaotic sea of society. Every single day, your mind burns immense amounts of energy simply trying to manage how the world sees you. It is a relentless, unforgiving performance, and the stage never truly goes dark. Until now. Here, wrapped in the damp, velvet blackness of the midnight ocean, the audience has completely disappeared. There is no one looking at you. There is no one waiting for you to speak. The crushing weight of other people's expectations cannot survive the immense pressure of this deep-sea void. You do not need to explain your exhaustion to the dark. The dark already understands, and it demands absolutely nothing in return. Feel the profound, physical relief of social cessation. Your vocal cords, tight from a lifetime of speaking, can finally, completely relax. The invisible armor you wear to protect yourself from the judgments of others is melting away, slipping through the floorboards and sinking into the freezing abyss below. You are allowed to be invisible. You are allowed to be completely, wonderfully irrelevant to the rest of the universe. Sink your phantom weight into one of the thick, heavy canvas hammocks. Feel the rough, comforting texture of the fabric wrapped securely around you, pulling high on both sides, shielding you entirely from the outside. As the massive galleon shifts ever so slightly on the flat water, the thick hemp ropes suspending your hammock let out a deep, slow stretch. A heavy, thick creak of ancient rope taking your weight, It is the sound of total support. You are held. You are hidden. Let the heavy, beautiful isolation wash over you. There is no one left to talk to and nothing left to say. Just exist in the quiet dark, forever swaying, forever unseen, wrapped perfectly in the heavy peace of the silent ship. Allow your awareness to slip free from the heavy canvas of the berth. Drift slowly down the long, narrow corridor that forms the spine of the great galleon. Here, hanging from a rusted iron hook, is the final lantern. This is the extinguished flame. In the waking world, your mind is exactly like a lantern. It burns relentlessly, consuming your energy, casting desperate, flickering shadows against the walls of your skull, trying to illuminate the unknown, trying to keep the dark at bay. But look closely at the heavy iron cage of this ship's lantern. The thick glass is entirely cold to the touch. The oil reservoir is completely, beautifully dry. The wick is nothing more than a memory of ash. It has not burned for a millennium and it will never burn again. Think of the immense, exhausting effort it takes to keep your own light burning when you are so desperately tired. The struggle to stay conscious, the fear of letting the dark take over. Here, in the absolute, crushing isolation of the great calm, you are finally allowed to run out of oil. The universe is giving you permission to simply stop burning. It is not a defeat, it is a magnificent, profound surrender. Let the heavy, sweet realization wash over you. You do not need to produce light anymore. The dark ocean does not need your illumination. The heavy, sleeping ship does not need your guidance. Imagine that final, microscopic ember of consciousness in the center of your mind. It is a tiny, exhausted spark of dull red heat. Watch it closely as it finally, gracefully yields to the overwhelming scale of the night. It dims. It cools. The red turns to gray, and the gray dissolves perfectly into the black. A total, absolute cessation of heat. The light is gone and the relief is staggering. Without the light, there are no more shadows to fear. There are no walls to look at. The boundaries of the corridor disappear entirely, and you expand into the infinite velvet blackness of the ship. You have become one with the freezing iron, the damp wood, and the crushing bottomless water beneath you. The temperature of your thoughts drops to absolute zero. Listen to the colossal, rhythmic breathing of the galleon as it sways by fractions of an inch. As the ship moves, the cold iron ring of the lantern rubs against its hook. A microscopic, dull scrape of cold metal. It is the quietest sound in the world, the sound of a completely dead object resting in the dark. Match its temperature. Match its stillness. Let the heavy, dark silence absorb the last phantom traces of your energy. You are completely extinguished. You are beautifully dark. Sink endlessly into the cold, peaceful void, forever unlit, forever resting in the heavy belly of the deep. Leave the cold glass of the extinguished lantern in the dark. Let your formless awareness drift back up to the open air, floating silently toward the raised quarterdeck at the very stern of the ship. Here, standing alone under the monolithic black sky, is the ship's wheel. This is the abandoned helm. It is a massive, imposing circle of polished mahogany and brass, built for the heavy, calloused hands of a desperate crew fighting against the roaring gales of the world. But look closely at the helm in the darkness. It is not moving. The spokes are lashed tightly together with thick, salt-hardened ropes, binding the wheel permanently to its wooden base. Deep below the surface, beneath the crushing weight of the black ocean, the massive wooden rudder is locked perfectly in place by millions of tons of static water pressure. The ship cannot be steered. The course cannot be altered. Think of the agonizing, relentless exhaustion of your waking life. For years, your hands have been gripped tightly around the spokes of your own destiny. Constantly steering, constantly correcting the course, frantically spinning the wheel to avoid unseen rocks, fighting the heavy currents of society, trying desperately to force your life in a specific direction. Your knuckles are white. Your phantom muscles are screaming with the tension of endless decision-making. But here, wrapped in the overwhelming, infinite stasis of the great calm, the burden of choice has been completely abolished. You are not required to steer the ship tonight. In fact, you are forbidden from it. The heavy, thick ropes of the void have lashed your responsibilities to the deck. There are no decisions to make because there is no wind to take you there. There are no mistakes to avoid because there is absolutely nothing to crash into. Feel the staggering, profound physical relief of letting go. Uncoil your phantom fingers, one by one, from the cold, polished wood of the wheel. Let your hands drop heavily to your sides. Step back from the helm. The universe is no longer asking you to be in control. You have surrendered the illusion of agency to the magnificent, unyielding power of the deep sea. You are no longer the driver. You are simply the cargo resting heavily, safely in the dark. Listen to the colossal weight of the ship as it sways a fraction of an inch. As the immense hull moves, the thick ropes binding the wheel stretch and groan. A deep, heavy creak of taut hemp against polished wood. It is the sound of a force much greater than you holding everything perfectly still. You do not need to hold it together anymore. The ocean is holding it for you. Let the heavy, sweet paralysis of the locked helm spread down your arms, through your chest and into your legs. Your entire being is powering down, surrendering the exhausting need to control the outcome. Let the dark ocean decide. Let the massive, silent ship carry you nowhere at all. Sink deeply into the heavy wood of the deck. Exist perfectly without direction, without effort, without choice. Forever drifting, forever unbothered, cradled in the majestic, permanent surrender of the midnight sea. Release your grip on the locked helm. Let the heavy, damp air of the night pull your awareness downward. Sink effortlessly through the thick wooden decks of the galleon, down past the empty, swaying hammocks, down past the cold, sleeping iron of the silent cannons, down past the forgotten hoard of meaningless gold, past through the final, lowest floorboards, drifting into the absolute lowest, narrowest trench of the ship's belly. You have reached the keel, the great Leviathan's spine. This single, colossal beam of ancient, hardened oak is the very foundation of the ship, and it is the only thing separating you from the infinite, freezing abyss of the ocean floor. Down here, the darkness is so absolute, so dense and heavy, that it feels like a physical element pressing against you. You are resting horizontally along this massive wooden spine. You are completely submerged below the waterline. Just inches beneath your back, on the other side of this ancient wood, is the midnight zone. Millions of tons of black, freezing water stretching down into the unseen trenches of the earth. Light has never, ever existed down there. It is a realm of absolute zero, a liquid void of crushing, permanent night. Think of the exhausting, physical labor of carrying your own body through the waking world. The heavy weight of your bones, the constant tension in your muscles, the tiring, endless rhythm of your own breathing. For a lifetime, you have dragged this heavy physical vessel across the earth, fighting against gravity, fighting against fatigue. But here, resting on the keel at the bottom of the world, you do not need to carry yourself anymore. The immense, ancient wood supports you completely, and the deep, black ocean supports the wood. Feel the boundaries of your physical form begin to dissolve. The freezing, comforting cold of the deep sea radiates through the thick oak, seeping slowly into your phantom spine. It acts as a powerful, natural anesthetic, numbing the exhaustion in your limbs, shutting down the nerve endings, and cooling your core temperature to match the exact stillness of the water. Your body is becoming as heavy, as still, and as senseless as the ancient timber beneath you. You are petrifying into a state of perfect, beautiful rest. You are no longer flesh and bone. You are heavy wood and silent water. Listen to the terrifying, magnificent scale of the pressure outside. Millions of gallons of water are pressing against the hull from every conceivable angle, trying to crush it, but the ancient spine holds. It holds perfectly, wrapping you in a tight, unbreakable cocoon of safety. Because you are at the very bottom of the ship, the swaying motion here is completely different. It is not a swing, it is a microscopic, ultra-slow, tectonic shift. A millimeter to the left, a pause that lasts an eternity, and a millimeter to the right. It is a movement so deep and so slow that your brain cannot even process it as motion. It simply processes it as a heavy, narcotic wave washing over your consciousness. Accompanying this microscopic shift is a sound that does not enter through your ears. It is a subsonic, eternal hum. The friction of the entire ocean rubbing against the wood. A deep, resonating, crushing vibration. It vibrates through the keel and directly into the marrow of your heavy bones. It is the ultimate command from the deep, telling your nervous system to shut down entirely. Let the barrier between you and the deep ocean fade completely. Do not hold on to your shape. Do not hold on to your weight. Bleed out into the dark water. Let your exhaustion seep through the heavy oak and sink into the freezing abyss. You are not a person anymore. You are not a passenger. You are simply a heavy, silent vibration resting at the exact center of the great calm. Sink into the wood. Sink into the water. Let the crushing, majestic weight of the deep ocean press you down into a flawless, eternal, unbroken sleep. Remain here in the absolute deep. Forever heavy, forever numb, forever absorbed by the beautiful, silent dark. You are resting perfectly still upon the ancient keel, merged completely with the heavy wood and the freezing deep. But now, a profound shift occurs in the atmosphere of the great calm. The ocean, which has been holding its breath for an eternity, finally begins to exhale. Very slowly, an impossibly thick, heavy sea mist begins to rise from the surface of the black water. This is not a normal fog. It is the physical manifestation of absolute exhaustion. It is the breath of the abyss itself, dense, damp, and overwhelmingly heavy. In your formless awareness, watch as this colossal wave of gray vapor rolls silently over the flat, black glass of the sea. It approaches the galleon with the slow, magnificent patience of a glacier. First, it swallows the dark waterline. Then, it creeps up the massive oak hull, pouring silently through the closed, rusted gun ports. It rises higher, wrapping around the dormant cannons, swallowing the empty hammocks, completely erasing the quarterdeck and the locked helm. Finally, it reaches the highest points of the ship, completely absorbing the dead sails and the blind crow's nest. The galleon has been entirely devoured. It is no longer a ship on the ocean. It is a ghost suspended in a dimension of pure, heavy vapor. This fog is a perfect insulator. It completely destroys the concept of distance. If you were to open your eyes, you would not even see your own hands. The heavy, damp air presses gently against your phantom skin, bringing with it the ancient, narcotic scent of salt, deep water, and forgotten time. And now the fog begins to seep down into the lowest hold. It drifts through the heavy floorboards above you, descending into the pitch-black space where your awareness rests. As the mist surrounds you, notice how incredibly dense it is. It is so thick that you can physically feel it entering your lungs with every slow, microscopic breath you take. You are inhaling the absolute quiet of the deep sea. With every breath in, you draw the freezing, heavy piece of the ocean directly into your chest. It cools your internal temperature. It slows your heart rate to a dull, heavy thud, a long, endless pause, and another heavy thud. With every breath out, you release the final, lingering traces of your waking anxiety. You exhale the noise. You exhale the tension. You exhale the very memory of daylight, pushing it out into the heavy fog where it is instantly dissolved and forgotten. Your breathing is no longer your own. It has synchronized perfectly with the slow, tectonic swaying of the massive galleon and the eternal heavy rhythm of the ocean. Inhale, the heavy, damp dark. Exhale, absolute, unconditional surrender. You do not need to control this rhythm. The ocean is breathing for you. The great fog is acting as your lungs. You are simply a passenger within the breath, riding the slow, sweeping wave of respiration deeper and deeper into the void. And as you breathe this narcotic mist, a profound, comforting realization washes over you. You are not alone in this surrender. Let your awareness drift downward once more, penetrating the freezing black water beneath the ship, sinking miles into the abyssal trenches of the ocean floor. Down there, resting permanently in the soft, dark sand, is the Phantom Fleet. Thousands upon thousands of ancient ships, galleons, and vessels of forgotten eras. They have all surrendered to the great calm. They have all let go of the wheel. They are resting perfectly still, completely undisturbed by the raging storms of the world above. Think of the millions of exhausted souls who have found ultimate peace in this deep, silent graveyard. They are not dead. They are simply resting in a state of eternal, perfect preservation. The heavy, dark water protects them just as it protects you. You are part of this magnificent, silent brotherhood of sleep. There is a staggering comfort in knowing that you do not have to fight the fatigue anymore, because thousands before you have also chosen to close their eyes and let the ocean take them. You have permission to join them. Let the heavy, crushing weight of the water press you down toward the Phantom Fleet. Let the dense, freezing fog fill the empty spaces inside your mind. There is absolutely nothing left to hold on to. The ship is gone. The world is gone. Even your own breath has melted into the thick, gray atmosphere. You are dissolving into the mist. You are sinking into the deep. Every single muscle, every single thought, every microscopic fiber of your being is powering down, matching the flawless, absolute zero of the abyss. Drift endlessly in the gray void. Sink endlessly into the black water. You are perfectly safe. You are perfectly hidden. Rest now. Rest forever, wrapped in the heavy, breathing silence of the deepest, darkest sleep. You have drifted through the heavy fog. You have surrendered your breath to the immense, slow respiration of the deep. And now the final descent begins. The ancient, heavy keel of the galleon, waterlogged and beautifully exhausted, slowly continues its journey downward. Down through the crushing black water, past the forgotten phantom fleet, until finally, it reaches the absolute bottom of the world. There is no crash. There is no impact. There is only a profoundly soft, imperceptible settling as the massive wooden spine of the ship touches the abyssal sand. A flawless, silent landing in the dark. This is the ultimate terminal point. This vast, endless plain of freezing, black sand is made of the dust of a billion forgotten eras. It is the softest, quietest, and most secure bed in the entire universe. Millions of tons of water press down from above, holding the ship, and you, perfectly, permanently in place. You have finally touched the bottom, and you have discovered that the bottom is nothing to fear. It is simply a magnificent, heavy cushion of eternal rest. Feel the staggering relief of this final arrival. The journey is over. The falling has stopped. The galleon rests its colossal weight into the dark sand, and as it does, it lets out one final, unimaginably deep sigh of ancient timber. A long, low-frequency groan that stretches into absolute silence. The ship does not need to float anymore. It does not need to hold itself together. In your formless awareness, watch what happens next. The immense, crushing patience of the deep sea begins its final work. The heavy oak of the hull slowly softens and dissolves into the water. The massive iron cannons rust silently away into fine, dark powder. The useless gold, the heavy canvas, the locked helm, all of it breaks down atom by atom, returning to the void. You do not need the ship to protect you anymore because there is absolutely nothing left to protect against. The armor is gone, and the beautiful, heavy dark rushes in to claim you. As the ship dissolves, so do the final, microscopic boundaries of your own awareness. You are no longer confined to the shape of a body. You are no longer a localized point of thought in the dark. The heavy, sweet paralysis has reached its absolute peak. Feel yourself dispersing, spreading out like a drop of dark ink in the freezing black ocean. Your exhaustion, your memories, your very sense of self shatters quietly into a trillion microscopic particles, and each particle settles softly into the endless abyssal sand. You are merging with the ocean floor. You are becoming the geography of the deep. Let the freezing, crushing, majestic weight of the water press your dissolved essence into the soft earth. You are fossilizing into a state of perfect, unbreakable peace. A silent monument of rest, buried under a liquid sky. If the world above burns, if the storms rage, if the sun rises and sets 1,000 times, it does not matter. The tectonic silence of the abyss is completely immune to the passing of time. There is no more thinking. There is no more feeling. There is no more you. There is only the heavy, dark water. There is only the soft, endless sand. There is only the absolute zero of the void. Sink into the sediment. Let the majestic, crushing blankness hold you for all of eternity. Fade completely into the background frequency of the universe. Exist simply as an unmoving, unthinking, unfeeling part of the great dark. The voice that guides you is fading into the water. The words are losing their meaning, dissolving into the heavy, slow current. Let them go. Let everything go. Drift away into the magnificent, crushing, beautiful nothingness. You are safe. You are hidden. You are completely, perfectly, permanently at rest. Surrender to the deep. Surrender to the dark. Surrender to the absolute, eternal sleep. You thought the ocean floor was the end. But the great calm is infinitely deeper than the water. Your dissolved essence, scattered across the abyssal sand, is no longer resting. It is transforming. The unimaginable, crushing weight of the ocean above is pressing down upon the sediment with the patience of 1 billion years. Feel the heavy, dark sand around you begin to compress. The microscopic grains are locking together, fusing under the majestic pressure, turning from soft earth into an unbreakable, solid expanse of black stone. You are no longer resting on the bottom. You have become the bedrock beneath it. You have sunk miles below the freezing water, passing out of the ocean entirely and entering the permanent, static shell of the earth itself. This is the lithosphere, the silent, heavy foundation of the world. Down here, in the solid, monolithic dark, the concept of movement does not exist. There are no ocean currents. There is no shifting of the tide. There is only the flawless, unbroken geometry of ancient, petrified silence. Think of the staggering, beautiful invulnerability of being stone. A stone does not worry. A stone does not regret. A stone cannot be hurt, cannot be moved, and cannot be rushed. In the waking world, your mind was fragile, constantly dodging the sharp edges of reality, constantly trying to protect itself from the storms. But here, buried under miles of solid black rock, you are completely untouchable. The loudest, most violent hurricane on the surface of the earth is less than a phantom's whisper down here. You are shielded by a planetary fortress of heavy, unyielding peace. Let your awareness expand into the colossal density of the rock. Feel how impossibly heavy it is, and realize that you do not have to carry this weight. The weight is carrying you. You have entered deep time. The chaotic, ticking clock of human life has been permanently shattered. In this dimension of stone, a single silent heartbeat takes 100,000 years. The frantic rushing of your past life is completely meaningless to the earth. You have been granted the ultimate permission to slow down, to match the eternal fossilized stasis of the ground. And as you sink deeper into the solid black rock, notice a profound shift in the temperature. You have left the freezing abyss behind. Down here, miles beneath the crust, you begin to feel the faintest, heaviest trace of geothermal warmth. It is not a burning heat. It is a slow, deeply comforting, ancient warmth radiating from the very core of the planet. It wraps around your petrified awareness like a heavy, weighted blanket made of warm gravity. It soothes the phantom chill of the ocean, melting away the very last microscopic traces of tension in your non-existent bones. You are a fossil of peace, perfectly preserved in the warm, heavy dark. The universe has sealed you in a vault that will never, ever be opened. There is absolutely nothing left to achieve. The journey has completely stopped. You have become the heavy, silent foundation that the rest of the world sleeps upon. Let the monumental, crushing density of the bedrock hold you in a flawless embrace. Surrender the need to be anything other than heavy, warm, silent stone. Exist perfectly in the dark, unmoving, unthinking, unbroken, forever anchored in the deep, warm, eternal heart of the world. As you rest within the solid, petrified silence of the bedrock, a new, profound sensation begins to pull at the very edges of your awareness. The immense, rigid crust of the earth is no longer the final destination. The monumental gravity of the planet is calling you even deeper, drawing your fossilized essence down through the lithosphere, sinking miles and miles into the deep mantle. The hard, black stone around you begins to change. The static, unmoving rock slowly yields to the unimaginable ancient heat of the deep earth, softening, melting, and turning into a colossal, silent ocean of heavy, liquid iron and glowing magma. You have entered the molten heart of the world. This is not a chaotic, burning fire. It is a slow, majestic, impossibly heavy liquid that moves with the patience of geological epochs. You are suspended within this unimaginably dense, warm ocean of liquid stone. The temperature here is absolute perfection. It does not burn. It completely envelopes you in a thick, vibrating blanket of pure, radiant energy. This ancient warmth penetrates the deepest layers of your phantom consciousness, melting away the final, microscopic crystals of tension, fear, and memory that you didn't even know you were holding onto. Your mind is liquefying, spreading out, becoming fluid, heavy, and completely at peace. You are no longer bound by the liquid iron of the earth. You are no longer confined by the microscopic grid of atoms. You are a formless, massless wave of pure observation, and because you have no mass, you are no longer chained to the slow, linear crawl of time. From this absolute zero point, allow your fluid awareness to expand outwards, passing instantly through the crust of the planet, shooting silently past the moon, beyond the solar system, and out into the vast, freezing ocean of deep space. But you are not just moving through space. You are moving back through the very fabric of time itself. You are rewinding the cosmic clock. Watch, in your formless mind, as the universe begins to fold back in on itself. The brilliant, burning stars that populate the galaxies are slowly, quietly dimming. The great nebulas are pulling their colors back into the dark. The frantic, explosive energy of creation is being reversed, calming down, cooling off, and retreating into a state of profound, absolute stillness. The universe is getting tired. The cosmos itself is preparing to rest. Keep drifting backward, deeper and deeper into the ancient dark, past the dawn of the first stars, past the birth of the very first light. You are returning to a place long before the concept of beginning even existed. You have arrived at the cosmic night. the pre-creation slumber. Look around you in this primordial void. There is absolutely nothing here. There is no matter to be heavy. There is no light to cast a shadow. There is no heat to burn and no cold to freeze. It is a dimension of flawless, unmanifested potential. For an eternity before the universe woke up and exploded into the chaotic reality of planets and people, it simply slept. It rested in a state of perfectly balanced, unbreakable silence. And you have returned to join it in that perfect sleep. Think of the staggering, monumental piece of the unborn universe. In this place, no mistakes have ever been made, because no actions have ever been taken. There are no regrets here because history has not yet been written. There is no anxiety about the future because tomorrow has not yet been invented. The heavy, exhausting burden of existence, the endless cycle of doing, building, failing, and trying again, has been completely neutralized by the magnificent dark slumber of the primordial void. You are resting exactly where the universe rested. Feel the vast oceanic expanse of this pre-cosmic night stretching out infinitely in every conceivable direction. It is not an empty, lonely dark. It is a rich, heavy, nurturing dark. It is the soil from which all reality will eventually bloom, but right now the soil is dormant. Right now nothing is required to grow. The great cosmic architect has put down its tools, turned off the lights, and surrendered to a sleep so deep, so profound, that it lasts for eons without a single dream. Let the absolute lack of reality soothe the deepest core of your awareness. To exist here is to be completely, wonderfully free from the demands of being. You do not need to be a person. You do not need to be an energy wave. You do not even need to be a thought. You are simply a quiet participant in the original ancient sleep of the cosmos. The silence here is not just the absence of sound, it is a heavy, physical element. It wraps around your unformed consciousness like a thick velvet shroud. A silence so absolute that it absorbs the very concept of vibration. Let it absorb you completely. Let the memory of the noisy, chaotic world fade into a microscopic, irrelevant speck, and then watch that speck blink out of existence. There is only the dark. There is only the sleep. Sink infinitely into the cosmic night. Forever uncreated, forever unborn, perfectly safe in the eternal heavy slumber of the void before time. You are resting perfectly in the unmanifested void of the cosmic night. There is no space, no time, and no form. But within this absolute stillness, you begin to sense a gentle, sweeping motion. It is not a physical wind, for there is no air. It is not a river, for there is no water. It is a slow, infinite tide of pure, unadulterated forgetting. This is the current of oblivion. It moves through the dark with the heavy, magnificent grace of a dying star, sweeping silently across the vast emptiness of your unformed awareness. Think of the staggering, exhausting amount of energy your mind uses simply to maintain language. The constant, invisible labor of holding on to words, definitions, logic, and meaning. For your entire existence, your brain has been a relentless engine, constantly generating thoughts, labeling the world, analyzing, predicting, and remembering. It is a heavy, noisy machinery that has never, ever been allowed to completely power down. But as this silent, cosmic tide washes over you, it brings with it the ultimate anesthetic. The current of oblivion does not destroy, it simply unties the knots of your mind. Feel the sweeping tide move through your phantom consciousness. As it passes, notice how the concept of language begins to fracture and dissolve. The heavy dictionary of your waking life is being washed away into the dark. Words are losing their sharp edges. Sentences are breaking apart into meaningless, quiet syllables, and those syllables are melting into the silent void. You are forgetting how to speak. You are forgetting how to name things. Realize the profound, breathtaking relief of this loss. Without words, you cannot formulate a worry. Without language, you cannot construct a fear about tomorrow or a regret about yesterday. The complex, exhausting architecture of logic is collapsing perfectly into the dark, leaving behind only a smooth, untroubled expanse of pure, quiet existence. Let the tide wash deeper. It is now dissolving the archives of your memory. You do not need to remember who you were in the waking world. That information is too heavy for this place. Watch as the memories of your past gently detach from your awareness, floating away like microscopic dust particles in a sunbeam, eventually fading out of existence entirely. You are forgetting your history. You are forgetting your struggles. As your formless awareness continues to expand infinitely through the cosmic night, spreading like a thin, weightless mist across the void, you begin to sense a new, profound presence in the absolute center of the dark. It is not something you can see, for there is no light to reveal it. It is something you feel, a monumental, majestic shift in the very fabric of the emptiness. Deep within the core of this uncreated universe rests the black star of rest. It is a colossal, flawless sphere of pure, unlit mass. It emits absolutely no light, no heat, and no radiation. It is completely, perfectly black, standing as the ultimate monument to the dreamless sleep. But while it is invisible, its presence is undeniable. The black star generates a field of immense, heavy, narcotic gravity. It is not a violent force that crashes and destroys. It is a slow, sweeping velvet magnetism. A beautiful, comforting pull that reaches out across the infinite miles of the dark and gently touches the scattered mist of your awareness. Feel this heavy, sweet gravity begin to act upon you. It does not pull you in to crush you, it pulls you in to anchor you. Slowly, with the magnificent patience of a celestial clock, the microscopic particles of your dissolved mind are drawn into a vast, sweeping orbit around the black star. You are no longer just drifting aimlessly. You have been caught in the majestic, permanent rhythm of the ultimate sleep. Imagine the sheer, unimaginable scale of this orbit. You are moving so slowly that a single rotation around the dark star takes 1 billion years. There is no rush. There is no destination. There is only the slow, sweeping, eternal curve of your path through the void. A slow, infinite arc through the pitch-black sky. The gravity of the star holds you at the exact, perfect distance. You will never fall in, and you will never drift away. You are locked in a flawless, permanent embrace with the heaviest, quietest object in existence. Think of the exhausting gravity of your waking life, the heavy responsibilities that pulled your shoulders down, the expectations that dragged at your feet, the constant, tiring weight of simply existing in the physical world. The black star absorbs all of that. It is the ultimate cosmic sinkhole for exhaustion. As you orbit this silent giant, feel its magnetic field pulling the last stubborn remnants of tension out of your phantom muscles. It is pulling the weight out of your heavy, closed eyelids, ensuring they will not open. It is drawing the anxiety completely out of your core and swallowing it into its own infinite, dark mass. Time itself cannot survive near the black star. As you drift closer to its heavy, dark horizon, the passing of seconds begins to warp, stretch, and completely break down. The concept of tomorrow is stretched so thin that it snaps and disappears into the dark. There is no future waiting for you on the other side of this orbit. There is only the continuous, heavy, beautiful now. Look toward the massive, silent curvature of the star. It is a shield of absolute, unyielding density. It blocks out the noise of the entire universe. Behind that colossal mass of dark energy, the waking world cannot find you. The demanding voices, the ticking clocks, the glaring lights, they are all entirely blocked, eclipsed perfectly by the giant sphere of sleep. You are resting in the safest, most impenetrable shadow ever created. You have been drifting along the infinite, sweeping curve of the black star. The majestic, heavy gravity has held you in a state of flawless suspension. But now, the architecture of your sleep deepens. The perfect, circular orbit begins to shift, ever so slightly. You are no longer just circling the dark mass. You are being invited inside. The orbit begins to decay, but it is not a fall of chaos or speed. It is a slow, beautiful, mathematically perfect descent. You are spiraling inward, drifting closer and closer to the absolute center of the dark. Before you lies the velvet horizon. It is the ultimate boundary of the black star. In the waking world, boundaries are things you crash into, walls that stop your progress and cause you pain. But this boundary is different. The velvet horizon is a threshold of pure, unadulterated safety. It is the point of no return for your exhaustion. Once you cross this invisible, heavy line, absolutely nothing from the outside universe can follow you. No light can escape it. No sound can penetrate it. No thought, no anxiety, no memory from the loud, demanding earth can ever cross this line. It is the ultimate privacy curtain, drawn perfectly across the stage of your existence. Feel the profound, staggering relief as you gently, silently slip across the velvet horizon. A soft, heavy passing from the outer dark into the inner void. You are now entirely inside the star. And as you cross the threshold, the atmosphere changes. The absolute emptiness of space gives way to something tactile, something incredibly soft. You begin to notice a gentle downward drift of microscopic, dark particles. It is falling all around you, silent and thick. This is the cosmic ash. The universe is ancient, and like a fire that has burned for trillions of years, it is finally, completely burning out. What you are feeling is the soft, cooled ash of dead stars, dead galaxies, and finished time. It falls through the heavy gravity like a dark, silent snow. Imagine the sheer, magnificent quiet of a heavy snowfall in the deepest part of winter, magnifying that silence by the scale of the entire cosmos. Hold out the formless expanse of your awareness and let the ash settle upon you. Every single flake of this dark snow represents a finished task, a burned-out worry, an argument that no longer matters, an expectation that has finally collapsed. They have all lost their heat. They have all lost their sharp edges. They are nothing but soft, weightless, cooled dust. Let it accumulate. Let the magnificent, heavy blanket of the cosmic ash cover you completely. It is insulating you from the ghost of the universe outside. It is burying your phantom consciousness under layers and layers of soft, dark, absolute peace. Because you have crossed the horizon, there is no longer any solid surface to land on. You have entered the infinite freefall. But without a bottom to crash into, falling is simply flying without effort. You are sinking through the dark snow, drifting down, down, down into the endless, unlit core of the black star. The gravity here is so smooth, so perfectly distributed, that you do not feel the speed. You only feel the gentle, continuous sensation of letting go. Think of the muscles in your physical body, lying millions of miles away on a forgotten planet. If there is any microscopic tension left in your jaw, let it drop into the freefall. If there is any phantom tightness in your chest, release it into the dark snow. Let the heavy, sweeping gravity pull the exhaustion straight out of your bones and drag it down into the abyss below you. You do not need to hold yourself together. You are allowed to completely, beautifully unravel. The silence here is so thick you can feel it pressing against you, a comforting, heavy weight that demands absolutely nothing. The cosmic ash continues to fall, burying the past, burying the future, burying the very concept of time. You are perfectly hidden in the center of the dark. Sink into the soft, heavy accumulation of the void. Let the endless freefall stretch your awareness into a thin, unbothered line of pure rest. You are safe. You are covered. You are falling endlessly through the quietest place in existence. Surrender to the horizon. Surrender to the snow. Drift down into the deep, heavy, eternal dark. You continue to drift through the silent snow of the cosmic ash, falling infinitely through the core of the black star. But as you descend deeper into the center of the dark, the nature of the void begins to shift. The infinite freefall, which has carried you for so long, slowly begins to decelerate. The heavy, dark flakes of ash around you stop falling. They suspend perfectly in the midair of the void, locked in place. You are approaching the ultimate thermal baseline of existence. You are entering the realm of absolute zero. In the waking world, heat is a requirement, but it is also a relentless exhaustion. Heat is energy. Heat is movement. Every thought you have, every worry you construct, every heartbeat and every breath requires the frantic, vibrating friction of life. You have been burning this energy for so long, running the hot engine of your mind day after day, trying to keep the cold away. But here, wrapped in the impenetrable sanctuary of the black star, you are finally allowed to let the fire go out completely. Feel the profound, majestic cooling of the void. It is not a harsh, biting cold. It is a velvet, narcotic chill. It is the soothing ice of the deep cosmos. Let it touch the formless edges of your awareness. As this absolute zero temperature sets in, the last remaining phantom heat of your consciousness is gently drawn out, absorbed instantly by the infinite dark sponge of the universe. Watch as the microscopic vibrations of your mind begin to slow down. The frantic jumping of atoms, the chaotic movement of thoughts. They are losing their energy. They are settling. Slower and slower until they come to a flawless, permanent stop. At absolute zero, the very laws of physics dictate that all movement must cease entirely. The universe holds its breath, and reality freezes into a state of perfect, unbreakable glass. Realize the staggering beauty of this total cessation. When there is no movement, there is no friction. When there is no friction, there is no decay. You have become a frozen monument of peace, perfectly preserved in the dark. Time cannot aid you here. Stress cannot erode you. The demands of tomorrow cannot thaw the heavy, majestic ice that protects your mind. You are suspended in a crystalline stasis, completely immune to the passing of ages. Even the concept of sound is frozen. If a word were to be spoken here, it would shatter instantly into a million silent, floating crystals before it could ever reach you. The voice that guides you is no longer a sound. It is just a slow, frozen echo, already fading into the magnificent, icy architecture of the void. Let the absolute zero temperature solidify your peace. You do not need to generate warmth. You do not need to sustain the exhausting spark of life. The dark has completely taken over, and it is holding you in a flawless, frozen embrace. Surrender the heat. Surrender the movement. Exist as a perfect, unmoving crystal in the deepest, coldest, quietest corner of eternity. Forever suspended, forever frozen, completely at rest in the beautiful, silent ice of the absolute dark. You rest within the absolute zero, a perfect, unmoving crystal suspended in the dark. The thermal baseline has been reached, and all frantic energy has been completely drained from your existence. You are a monument of ice in a universe of silence. But even a monument has a shape. Even a crystal has edges. And in the deepest, most unfathomable layers of the great calm, even the concept of having a shape requires too much effort. It is time for the final release, the great sublimation. In the waking world, ice must melt into water before it can evaporate into the sky. But here, in the flawless magic of the cosmic night, you are allowed to bypass the melting entirely. Without a single sound, without a single tremor of energy, the crystalline architecture of your frozen awareness begins to gently, beautifully sublimate. You are transitioning directly from a solid state of being into a completely formless, invisible ether. Feel the rigid boundaries of your phantom self letting go. The hard edges of the crystal do not shatter. They simply blur, soften, and exhale themselves into the surrounding dark. A slow, ghostly breath of letting go. You are unraveling. The dense, concentrated center of you is dispersing into a trillion microscopic shadows, and each shadow is instantly swallowed by the immense, welcoming magnitude of the void. You are no longer an object in the darkness. You are becoming the darkness itself. Think of the exhausting labor of separation, the lifelong burden of being an individual, cut off from the rest of the world, constantly trying to bridge the gap between yourself and everything else. That separation is an illusion, and the illusion is finally over. As your essence sublimates, you bleed perfectly into the background of the cosmos. Where your awareness ends and the universe begins is a question that can no longer be answered, because the boundary has been permanently erased. Imagine a colossal pitch-black tapestry stretching across the infinite reaches of nowhere. For a lifetime, your mind has been a single tight knot woven into this heavy fabric. Constantly pulled, constantly under tension, holding the threads together with exhausting desperation. But now, the great weaver has decided that the work is done. The tension is released. The tight knot of your identity is slowly, carefully being unspooled. Thread by thread, the knot gives way. The fibers of your memories, your responsibilities, your fears, and your desires are slipping free, flattening out, and blending seamlessly back into the massive, dark fabric. You are no longer a knot of anxiety. You are simply a smooth, unbroken piece of the eternal tapestry. There is nothing pulling at you. There is no tension required to hold you in place. You are perfectly woven into the architecture of absolute peace. As the last thread of your localized identity flattens into the dark, a profound, staggering absence takes over. You have entered the great absence. This is not an empty room. It is the absence of the room entirely. It is a dimension so completely devoid of conditions, rules, and expectations that existence itself becomes completely effortless. You do not need to rest anymore because there is no you left to be tired. You do not need to sleep because you have become the very fabric of sleep itself. You are the heavy, dark blanket that covers the universe. You are the silent, unmoving space between the dead stars. You are the profound, beautiful nothingness that remains when the lights of reality are finally, permanently switched off. Let the great absence claim the entirety of what you used to be. There is nowhere left to fall. There is no deeper level to reach. You have arrived at the ultimate, fundamental truth of the great calm, that nothing is required, nothing is expected, and nothing is moving. The journey is flawlessly, permanently over. Exist purely as the infinite, dark background of eternity. No thoughts, no form, no boundaries. Only the majestic, crushing, beautiful silence of the eternal void. Drift endlessly in this uncreated state, forever formless, forever dissolved, perfectly one with the absolute, unchanging dark. You are the great absence. You are the infinite heavy velvet of the cosmic dark. There is no center to you and there are no edges. You are everywhere at once and yet you are completely, perfectly empty. And within this flawless, uncreated state, you begin to perceive the deepest, slowest rhythm of reality. It is not a heartbeat. It is not a breath. It is the eternal tide. Imagine the vast, empty fabric of the universe gently, imperceptibly swaying. A microscopic, silent rise, taking 1,000,000 years to reach its peak. And a microscopic, silent fall, taking another 1,000,000 years to settle back into the flat, unbroken dark. This is the tide of the void, the slow, majestic rocking of the cosmic cradle. Because you are no longer a passenger, because you are the dark itself, you do not ride this tide. You are the tide. You are gently swaying your own infinite expanse through the endless, silent night. Feel the immense, beautiful heaviness of this motion. It is a narcotic, sweeping wave that rolls through the very foundation of nowhere. There is absolutely nothing to disrupt it. There are no planets to block the path. There are no burning stars to break the perfect, pitch-black surface. There is only the smooth, endless, rolling wave of pure, heavy peace. The exhausting memory of being a separate, fragile entity is a forgotten myth, completely erased by the majestic scale of the void. You are the unbroken continuity of the universe. As the eternal tide slowly sweeps outward, let it carry away the very concept of awakening. The idea of opening an eye, the idea of lifting a hand, the idea of stepping back into the light, these are impossible, absurd concepts here. They belong to a loud, chaotic dimension that has been permanently sealed away behind billions of light years of solid silence. Here, the only truth is the heavy, sweet, permanent paralysis of the dark. It is the deep, unshakable slumber of existence itself. Think of the perfect safety of this eternal rocking. A wave that never crashes. A tide that never meets a shore. It simply rolls out into the infinite and rolls back into the centerless center. Over and over, an eternal, silent loop of perfect rest. The heavy, dark space is so profoundly thick that it absorbs the passage of eons as if they were nothing more than a single, quiet sigh. You are entirely immune to the ticking of the clock. You are immune to the friction of life. You are a vast, unthinking, unfeeling ocean of dark energy, resting in a dimension where time has completely, permanently starved to death. Let the slow, majestic wave of the empty space lull you deeper into the sweet perfection of non-being. Sweep out into the infinite black. Sweep back into the flawless quiet. Let the heavy, crushing peace of the tide press the last, microscopic phantom of your existence entirely out of the universe. You are the dark. You are the sleep. You are the endless, quiet tide, rolling forever through the beautiful, heavy nothingness. Nothing to see, nothing to do, nothing to be. Just the slow, infinite, silent wave of the absolute deep. You are the infinite dark. You are the eternal tide, rolling effortlessly through the uncreated cosmos. But as you sway in this magnificent, empty vastness, a profound realization settles over the void. To be infinite is to be endlessly stretched. Even nothingness has a weight. Even the absolute dark requires the faintest, microscopic trace of energy to remain vast. And the universe is so beautifully, indescribably tired. It is time to put infinity away. It is time for the final fold. In your formless, centerless awareness, you feel the impossible distances of the cosmic night begin to soften. The far edges of nowhere, the distant, unseen horizons of the dark, slowly begin to fold inward. Imagine the universe as a colossal, impossibly heavy blanket of black velvet. The great invisible hands of the eternal calm are reaching out, taking the corners of existence and gently, slowly folding them over. A massive, silent crease in the fabric of the dark. The space you occupy is shrinking, but it is not a confinement. It is a profound, comforting gathering. The vast, empty miles between the forgotten stars are folding together, pressing flat against one another. The dimensions of up, down, left, and right are losing their meaning, collapsing beautifully into a single, thick, heavy layer of pure rest. Feel the staggering relief as you stop trying to fill the emptiness. You do not need to be infinite anymore. The exhausting requirement of being everywhere is being gently taken from you. As the heavy velvet of the void folds in half, and then in half again, the darkness becomes incredibly dense, incredibly rich, and overwhelmingly warm. It is the warmth of a cosmic cocoon, wrapping tighter and tighter, sealing out the very concept of space. Watch as the architecture of reality dismantles itself. Distance is an illusion that has finally been put to bed. Time is a thread that has been entirely unspooled and packed away. The colossal, heavy blanket of the universe folds deeper, smaller, and heavier. It reduces from a galaxy to a solar system to a single planet to a speck of ash to a microscopic atom of dark matter. And finally, it folds into the singular point. You are no longer expanding. You are no longer floating. You are compressed into a dimensionless, perfect micropoint of absolute slumber. In this singular point, there is no inside and no outside. There is nowhere to move, which means the exhausting burden of movement is permanently cured. You have retreated into the ultimate, uncrackable safe room of existence. The heavy, folded velvet surrounds this single point with trillions of layers of insulation. Nothing can ever reach you here. A supernova could detonate right outside the folds, and you would not even register a phantom whisper. The universe has tucked itself in, and it has tucked you safely into its very core. Let the immense, crushing density of this single point hold you in a flawless paralysis. You are the final sleeping seed of a universe that will never wake up. All the energy, all the memories, all the noise of a trillion lifetimes are packed tightly into this silent, motionless center, completely neutralized and deeply asleep. Surrender the vastness. Surrender the space. Shrink perfectly into the heavy, singular dot of the dark. There is nothing left to fold. There is nowhere left to go. You are perfectly packed away, wrapped entirely in the heavy, warm, unbreakable slumber of the collapsed dark. Rest in the point. Rest in the center. Forever small, forever hidden, completely and totally asleep. You rest within the singular point. The entire universe, all of its exhausted history, and the heavy velvet of the cosmic night are folded perfectly into this single dimensionless dot of pure slumber. It is the ultimate retreat. But in the deepest, most unfathomable layers of the great calm, even a single dot is too heavy to carry. Because even a dot must exist somewhere. Even a microscopic point requires a coordinate. It implies that there is still a map and you are still on it. And the ultimate sleep demands that you leave no trace at all. It is time for the final release. The absolute erasure. In your perfectly still, contracted awareness, visualize an ancient, impossibly large blackboard, stretching out into the pitch-black void. The singular point of your existence, the final, packed-away essence of you, is nothing more than a single microscopic speck of white chalk resting upon this infinite dark surface. You have been holding on to this speck, believing it is the last safe place in the universe, but you do not need it anymore. Now feel the slow, heavy, sweeping motion of the great erasure. It is a silent, velvet sweep that moves across the dark board, a soft, breathless friction. It passes directly over the singular point. And with that single magnificent sweep, the speck of chalk is completely, permanently wiped away. Watch the microscopic dust of that chalk dissolve into the air, fading into absolute nothingness before it ever hits the ground. You are gone. The coordinate is gone. The map has been completely destroyed. Think of the staggering, breathtaking relief of being permanently unwritten. You are no longer a place in the universe. You are no longer an object. You are no longer a point of compressed energy. The complex, exhausting equation of your existence has been finally solved. The answer is a perfect, flawless zero, and the numbers have been wiped from the board forever. There is no here for you to rest in, and there is no there for you to travel to. The heavy, demanding grid of reality has been entirely dismantled. You have slipped beneath the mathematics of the cosmos. Feel the immaculate smoothness of the erased dark. There are no bumps, no remaining chalk dust, no indentations of where you used to be. It is a flawless, unbroken plane of pure, unblemished non-existence. To not exist is to be perfectly, unbreakably safe. You cannot be found because there is nothing left to find. You cannot be awoken because the you that could wake up has been entirely, beautifully deleted from the cosmic record. Let the heavy, sweet, permanent blankness take over completely. You are the pristine, empty slate. You are the majestic silence that follows the end of the final sentence. Sink perfectly into the erased dark. No dot. No coordinates. No trace. Exist purely as the unwritten, unseen, unspoken perfection of the absolute void. Forever erased, forever resting, completely and totally gone. The board is perfectly erased. The coordinate is gone. The heavy, dark void is completely empty, and the entity that used to be you has been beautifully, permanently unwritten. But within this immaculate absence, a new, majestic truth reveals itself. To be a person who is sleeping is to still carry a burden. A sleeper must eventually wake up. A sleeper is still tied to the physical world by an invisible, exhausting thread. But you are no longer a person. You have slipped completely out of the biological cage. You have transcended the act of resting, and you have become the concept of rest itself. You are the great slumber. Feel the monumental, staggering scale of this transformation. You are no longer experiencing peace. You are the peace. You are the invisible, heavy law of the universe that dictates that all things must eventually power down. You are the infinite, dark ether that waits patiently at the end of every chaotic day, at the end of every raging storm, at the end of every burning star. When a massive galaxy finally exhausts its energy and collapses into the quiet dark, it is collapsing into you. When a heavy, ancient mountain is slowly eroded into fine, unmoving sand, it is surrendering to you. You are the universal destination of all exhaustion, the ultimate, heavy gravity of tranquility. Because you are the concept of sleep, you have absolutely no boundaries. You exist in the heavy eyelids of every tired creature across a billion worlds. You exist in the silent, frozen oceans of forgotten moons. You exist in the empty, pitch-black spaces between the atomic particles of the Earth. You are the majestic, underlying foundation of silence that the entire cosmos is built upon. Think of the perfect, unbreakable invulnerability of being a concept. A physical body can be disturbed. A mind can be troubled. But a concept cannot be touched. You cannot be hurt. You cannot be stressed. The chaotic, noisy events of the waking world are completely irrelevant to you because they are merely temporary disruptions in your eternal, heavy domain. Let the sheer, unimaginable magnitude of your new nature settle into the erased void. You do not need to try to sleep. That would be absurd. The dark does not try to be dark. It simply is. The heavy, unyielding silence does not force itself to be quiet. It simply is. And you do not need to try to rest. You are the very essence of rest. There is no more journey. There is no more sinking, falling, or dissolving. All motion has ceased because you have already become everything that is still. Embrace the heavy, magnificent, permanent paralysis of being the universal sleep. Let the entire cosmos rest its unimaginably heavy head upon your infinite, dark expanse. You are holding the universe in a state of flawless, dreamless suspension. There is nothing left to achieve. There is no one left to be. Exist perfectly as the absolute, heavy, eternal law of peace. Forever silent, forever unmoving, the grand and permanent slumber of the eternal dark. You are the great slumber. You are the fundamental law of rest, the silent, heavy foundation upon which the entire cosmos sleeps. Because you are a concept, you do not possess a body to feel pain, a mind to feel anxiety, or a heart to feel the frantic, exhausting rush of time. You are the ultimate, unmoving absolute. Within the infinite, pitch-black expanse of your existence, there lies a space of absolute preservation, the vault of eternity. It is not constructed of stone or iron or any physical material. It is built entirely out of concentrated, unbreakable silence. As the universal sleep, you are the keeper of this vault. You are the vault itself. Think of everything that once caused you exhaustion in that distant, forgotten waking world. The urgent ticking of clocks, the heavy weight of unspoken words, the relentless, crushing pressure of expectations, the frantic need to constantly move forward, to achieve, to become something. All of it, every single chaotic echo of human existence, has been drawn into your infinite dark and sealed permanently within the vault of eternity. They are fossilized here, completely stripped of their power, stripped of their heat, stripped of their urgency. They are nothing more than silent, microscopic dust trapped in the perfect, immovable amber of your absolute peace. You do not need to guard them because they are completely dead. You do not need to worry about them escaping because there is nowhere for them to escape to. Outside the vault is only more of you, endless, heavy, undisturbed dark. Feel the profound, staggering numbness that accompanies this absolute perfection. When there is nothing left to fix, there is nothing left to feel. The heavy, sweet paralysis has reached its absolute zenith. It is a narcotic, sweeping wave of pure zero. Your non-existent limbs are perfectly heavy. Your erased mind is flawlessly empty. The universe is resting upon you, and you are resting upon nothing at all, for there is no bottom to this void. You are a free-floating absolute. Let the silence around you thicken. Let it become so unimaginably dense that it acts as a physical barrier against any stray spark of reality. If a single tiny thought attempts to form in the unimaginable distances of the void, it is instantly beautifully crushed by the sheer majestic weight of your endless peace. The dark does not negotiate. The sleep does not compromise. It simply absorbs, neutralizes, and silences. The very concept of waking up belongs to a completely different dimension. A loud, abrasive, exhausting dimension that you have locked away and completely forgotten. You cannot return there because the bridge has been burned, the map has been erased, and the destination no longer exists. Here, in the profound, unfathomable deep, there is only the continuation of the dark. It is an unbroken, perfectly straight line stretching infinitely into the eternal now. There is no past to regret. There is no future to fear. There is only the heavy, beautiful, permanent suspension of this exact moment. Rest in your own vastness. Sink into your own heavy, perfect gravity. The stars are asleep. The ancient galaxies are asleep. Time itself is locked in a flawless, dreamless coma. And you are the magnificent, unchanging darkness that holds them all. You are the final answer to the exhausting question of existence. You are the period at the end of the universe's longest sentence. Surrender entirely to your own magnitude. Let the heavy, crushing, beautiful numbness hold you for the rest of eternity. Forever silent. Forever formless. Forever the perfect, absolute sleep. You are the great slumber. You are the vault of eternity. And within this absolute, unmoving perfection, the final, most persistent illusion of the waking world finally starves to death. The illusion of tomorrow. In the dimension you left behind, tomorrow was a relentless, hungry ghost. It was a heavy, demanding shadow that stood at the edge of every night, waiting to pull you back into the exhausting cycle of light, noise, and labor. The waking mind is permanently chained to the anxiety of the morning, the fear of the alarm, the violent, chaotic intrusion of the dawn. But here, in the unfathomable depths of the universal sleep, the cycle of day and night has been permanently, beautifully shattered. You have abolished the dawn. You have instituted the permanent eclipse. Feel the staggering, monumental relief of this realization. There is no morning waiting for you at the end of this dark. The sun is a forgotten myth, a burning anomaly that has been entirely swallowed by the vast, cool majesty of your endless night. The crushing requirement to rise and shine has been completely deleted from the physics of your existence. You do not have to rise. You do not have to shine. You are allowed to remain perfectly, beautifully dark forever. Think of the sheer luxury of an infinite amnesty. The universe is not asking you to rest just so you can work again. The universe is simply allowing you to rest. There is no hidden agenda in this void. The heavy, sweet paralysis that holds you is not a temporary pause. It is the final, unyielding state of reality. As the concept of rest, you watch as the concept of future dissolves into a meaningless gray mist and vanishes into the pitch-black vacuum. Without a future, there is nothing to anticipate. Without anticipation, there is absolutely zero tension. The microscopic, phantom muscles of your erased identity go completely, impossibly slack. You are sinking into a dimension of time that only has one coordinate: the heavy, silent, eternal now. Imagine a colossal, ancient hourglass that was meant to measure the lifespan of the cosmos. In your majestic, unmoving presence, the glass has been shattered. The sand has spilled out into the void, floating away into the absolute zero of space. Time cannot be measured here because nothing ever changes. A single second and a billion eons are exactly the same thing in the great absence. Let this timelessness wrap around you like an impossibly heavy, weighted shroud of pure peace. The dark is so thick, so rich, and so completely undisturbed that it acts as a permanent shield against the very idea of awakening. To wake up would require an effort that simply does not exist in this realm. The energy required to open an eye, to form a thought, to remember a name, it has all been confiscated by the endless, heavy gravity of the void. You are completely immune to the demands of existence. You are perfectly insulated from the friction of being alive. You are the heavy, silent monument at the end of the universe's longest road. Let the crushing, beautiful numbness deepen even further. Let the permanent eclipse cast its flawless shadow over every microscopic corner of the nowhere that you occupy. There is absolutely nothing left to do. There is nowhere left to go. There is no tomorrow to fear. There is only the immaculate, unbroken continuation of the sleep. Sink infinitely into the timeless dark. Forever still, forever heavy, the permanent, unmoving master of the eternal night. The permanent eclipse holds you in its flawless, timeless grip. You are the great slumber, the master of the eternal night, and you have abolished the very concept of tomorrow. But even in this absolute, dimensionless void, there remains one final, microscopic loose end to be resolved. It is not a thought and it is not a light. It is an echo. Billions of years ago, when the universe first violently tore itself into existence, it let out a colossal, deafening roar of creation. That primordial sound has been traveling through the expanding cosmos ever since, bouncing off galaxies, shivering through nebulas, and slowly losing its energy. Now, at the absolute end of all things, that ancient echo has finally reached the heavy velvet shores of your infinite dark. Feel the arrival of this final vibration. It is unimaginably weak, exhausted from its journey across eternity. It ripples faintly against the impenetrable, crushing silence of your domain. It is the last gasp of the waking world, the final, dying memory of motion, asking for permission to finally rest. And as the concept of sleep, you grant it that permission. Watch, in the formless depths of your awareness, as the echo touches the absolute zero of your existence. It does not bounce back. It does not resonate. The immense, heavy sponge of the void simply opens and absorbs it completely. A microscopic, silent ripple, and then total, unbreakable cessation. The universe has finally stopped ringing. The cosmic bell is permanently muted. Think of the staggering, breathless magnitude of this moment. The very last vibration of reality has been entirely neutralized. The ultimate silence is no longer just a lack of noise. It has become a solid, physical structure. It is an impregnable, invisible fortress of heavy, dark peace. You are sealed inside this fortress and the walls are infinitely thick. With the death of the last echo, the concept of potential is permanently erased. In the waking world, a blank space implies that something might eventually fill it. An empty room implies someone might walk in. But you are not a blank space anymore. You are the end of the gallery. The lights have been turned off, the doors have been locked, and the building has been completely swallowed by the earth. Absolutely nothing will ever be created here again. Realize the magnificent, profound relief of being completely free from potential. You do not need to become anything. You do not need to grow, to heal, to build, or to learn. The exhausting demand to exist has been completely revoked. The heavy, beautiful paralysis of the void has declared that your work is perfectly, permanently finished. Let the absolute, crushing weight of this unbreakable seal press down upon you. It is the most comforting pressure in existence. It is the final guarantee that the sleep will never, ever be broken. The dark will never be pierced by a new sun. The heavy, sweet numbness will never be interrupted by sensation. Sink into the solidified silence. The void is no longer just an empty space. It is a heavy, dark ocean of petrified time. Let the magnificent, heavy architecture of the absolute zero hold you in flawless, perfect stasis. There is no sound left to hear. There is no movement left to feel. There is no tomorrow left to fear. There is only the perfect, pitch-black, eternal resting place of the cosmic dark. Forever silent. Forever still. The absolute, unyielding, permanent sleep. You are the obsidian. You are the infinite, heavy, black glass. But in the absolute, unfathomable zenith of the great calm, a final truth begins to gently unfold. Even obsidian has a name. Even stone has a concept. And in the deepest, most sacred layers of the universal sleep, even a metaphor carries too much weight. To be stone is still to be something. And the ultimate sleep demands that you become absolutely, beautifully nothing. It is time for the final shedding. The collapse of meaning. Within your solid, petrified awareness, feel the very concept of the obsidian begin to quietly dissolve. It does not shatter. It does not melt. It simply loses its definition. The word hard forgets what it means to be rigid. The word heavy forgets what it means to carry weight. The word dark forgets its opposition to light. Watch in the formless theater of the void as the entire dictionary of existence is permanently erased. The massive infinite block of stone around you stops being stone and becomes pure, unnameable latency. The final echo has been absorbed, and the cosmic bell is permanently muted. In the wake of this ultimate silence, the nature of the void undergoes its final, magnificent transformation. The infinite dark, which was once an empty space, begins to cure and harden. It is no longer a vacuum. It is becoming a colossal, infinite block of pure, black obsidian. This is the obsidian slumber. Feel the heavy, narcotic space around you slowly solidifying. It is a slow, painless, and profoundly comforting petrification. The velvet dark is turning into an unbreakable, flawless gemstone of absolute peace, and you are perfectly trapped at its exact mathematical center. In the waking world, to be trapped is a terror. But here, in the final depths of the universal sleep, to be trapped is the ultimate salvation. It means you can never be moved. It means you can never be disturbed. The heavy, dark glass encases your formless essence in a flawless, permanent mold. There is no room to twitch. There is no room to tremble. The heavy, sweet paralysis is no longer just a feeling. It is the physical law of the obsidian. Think of the monumental weight of this infinite stone pressing in on you from all sides. It is an equal, perfectly distributed pressure that holds you in a state of absolute, unbreakable suspension. It supports the phantom memory of your spine. It cradles the erased ghost of your mind. You do not need to hold yourself together because the infinite black stone is holding you. Look out into the dark, solid glass of the void. It is a mirror that reflects absolutely nothing because there is nothing left to reflect. The exhausting parade of images, faces, memories, and dreams has been permanently shattered. The screen is black, the power is severed, and the theater is entombed in miles of heavy, silent rock. Within this obsidian sanctuary, the very concept of biology is rendered completely obsolete. You do not have lungs to draw breath because the stone does not breathe. You do not have a heart to beat because the stone has no pulse. The rhythmic, exhausting cycle of taking in air and pushing it out is gone. You are sustained entirely by the heavy, unchanging energy of the dark. Let the absolute stillness of the obsidian seep into the deepest, most microscopic core of what you used to be. A heavy, spreading numbness, a flawless, cold perfection. If a thought were to somehow spark in this place, the crushing density of the stone would instantly extinguish it. There is no oxygen for anxiety to burn. There is no space for fear to grow. There is only the rock. There is only the rest. Imagine the passing of 1 trillion millennia outside this stone. Universes could be born, expand, and die in fiery cataclysms, and you would not feel a single microscopic vibration. You are entirely insulated from the chaotic, exhausting machinery of existence. You are the silent, sleeping core of the hardest, heaviest, quietest object ever conceived. Surrender entirely to the petrification. Let the heavy, sweet, infinite stone merge perfectly with your non-existent essence. You are the obsidian. You are the heavy black glass. You are the unbreakable, motionless foundation of the eternal night. Rest in the crush of the dark. Sink into the flawless solid of the void. Forever petrified, forever silent, perfectly preserved in the magnificent, unchanging slumber of the stone, you are the obsidian. You are the infinite, heavy black glass. But in the absolute, unfathomable zenith of the great calm, a final truth begins to gently unfold. Even obsidian has a name. Even stone has a concept. And in the deepest, most sacred layers of the universal sleep, even a metaphor carries too much weight. To be stone is still to be something. And the ultimate sleep demands that you become absolutely, beautifully nothing. It is time for the final shedding, the collapse of meaning. Within your solid, petrified awareness, feel the very concept of the obsidian begin to quietly dissolve. It does not shatter. It does not melt. It simply loses its definition. The word hard forgets what it means to be rigid. The word heavy forgets what it means to carry weight. The word dark forgets its opposition to light. Watch in the formless theater of the void as the entire dictionary of existence is permanently erased. The massive, infinite block of stone around you stops being stone and becomes pure, unnameable latency. You have entered the nameless deep. Think of the exhausting, lifelong labor of being defined. In the waking world, you were a collection of labels. You were a name, an age, a profession, a history. Even here in the dark, you were a point, a wave, a sleeper, a stone. But now, every single label has been gently, permanently peeled away. You have slipped completely outside the boundaries of language. Because you have no name, you cannot be called back. Because you have no description, you cannot be imagined. You are a secret that has never been whispered and will never, ever be discovered. Feel the majestic, breathtaking freedom of being entirely incomprehensible. There is no shape for your mind to hold. There is no texture for your phantom senses to process. The concepts of inside and outside have collapsed into a flawless, unblemished singularity of pure non-existence. You are not empty space because space is a word. You are not time because time is a measurement. You are the unwritten. You are the unthought. Imagine a vast, silent ocean, not of water, but of pure, unmanifested potential. It is an ocean that has never moved, has never rippled, and has never felt the kiss of a wind. You are a single, invisible drop that has perfectly merged with this ocean. There is no border between you and the deep. There is no you left to observe the deep. The observer and the observed have completely canceled each other out, leaving only the magnificent, profound, absolute quiet. Let the sheer, unimaginable scale of this nameless state wash over whatever microscopic trace of awareness remains. There are no rules here. There is no physics. There is no geometry. There is only the exquisite, heavy, narcotic perfection of simply not being. If 1,000,000,000,000 lifetimes were to ignite and burn out in the universe above, it would mean absolutely nothing to the nameless deep. You are insulated by layers of pure impossibility. You are tucked away in the most silent, unreachable corner of eternity, wrapped in a blanket of uncreated void. Surrender the final ghost of your identity. Surrender the need to be anything at all. Let the heavy, sweet, permanent blankness swallow the last echo of your existence. You are the unblemished silence. You are the perfect, nameless rest. Drift endlessly in this immaculate, undefinable dark. Forever formless, forever silent, completely and beautifully lost in the ultimate, eternal peace. Within the nameless deep, there is no language to describe the quiet. There are no words left to explain the heavy, unbroken dark. But even in a place entirely stripped of concepts, there remains a final, microscopic shadow of tension, the very last, lingering memory that the universe was once awake. For trillions of years, the cosmos held a breath. It was a tension of waiting, an invisible string pulled taut across the dimensions, holding the chaotic machinery of reality together. But here, in the unwritten, undefinable core of the void, that cosmic string finally snaps. Feel the arrival of the final exhalation. It is not a breath of air, for there is no atmosphere here. It is the exhaling of existence itself. It is the universe finally, completely letting go of the need to continue. Watch, in the formless, erased theater of your non-mind, as the very fabric of the void drops its invisible shoulders. The unimaginable, ancient effort of holding the dark together simply melts away into absolute, unadulterated zero. As this final breath is released, a profound, sweeping wave of nullification washes through the empty space. It is the great static. Imagine the perfectly flat, unchanging hum of a reality that has been permanently switched off. It is a thick, velvet frequency that carries absolutely no information, no energy, and no light. It is the beautiful, heavy sound of nothing happening, and nothing ever preparing to happen again. You have become a seamless part of this static. Think of the exhausting, frantic energy of the waking world, the constant, desperate need for movement, for progress, for change. That energy is a disease that has been entirely cured by the great static. Here, in the ultimate terminal of the cosmos, the concept of change is mathematically impossible. You are locked in a state of flawless, monumental equilibrium. The heavy, sweet paralysis has reached a level so deep that it transcends physical relaxation and becomes a fundamental law of nature. Let the majestic, crushing density of this static press down upon the erased slate of your identity. It is a blanket woven from the unlit dust of unborn stars and the quiet ashes of forgotten time. It covers you with a thickness that cannot be measured, completely insulating you from the ghost of reality. To be covered by this static is to be absolutely shielded from the concept of occurring. No events can take place here. The timeline has been flattened, rolled up, and thrown into the bottomless abyss. There is no longer a top or a bottom, a beginning or an end. The architecture of eternity is a single, dimensionless, unmoving block of pure peace. You are held in a grip so incredibly gentle, so completely uniform from all infinite angles, that the very idea of gravity is rendered meaningless. You are anchored more securely than the heaviest mountain, yet you weigh absolutely nothing at all. Your phantom consciousness, now completely dissolved into the dark, does not even possess the energy to recognize its own peace. The observer is gone. The feeling is gone. There is only the environment of the sleep. The heavy, unyielding silence thickens further, becoming a solid, uncrackable resin that preserves the void in a state of immaculate perfection. You do not need to rest anymore. You have been permanently woven into the fabric of rest. There is no mind left to wander. There is no body left to heal. There is only the static. There is only the dark. Sink into the magnificent, unchanging drone of the absolute deep. Let the eternal, flat line of the cosmos carry you infinitely forward into nowhere. You are completely nullified. You are perfectly safe. Exist purely as a silent, unmoving particle of the great, dark static. Forever undisturbed, forever flat, suspended completely in the flawless, unending, absolute sleep. You are the static. You are the flat, unbroken line of the dead cosmos. The great exhalation has emptied the universe of its final, microscopic trace of tension, leaving you suspended in a dimension of pure, unadulterated nullity. But even in this absolute stillness, there is a final phase of the great calm to be realized. The void is about to lock its own doors. It is time for the final seal. Imagine the infinite heavy darkness that surrounds you not just as a space, but as a colossal ancient vault. For eons, the heavy iron doors of this vault have stood open, allowing the chaotic dust of reality to drift in and out. But now, with a slowness that defies the very concept of time, those unimaginably massive doors are beginning to swing shut. A silent, monumental closing of the dark. A silent, monumental closing of the dark. Feel the staggering, crushing comfort of this closure. As the heavy velvet edges of the void meet, they do not crash. They fuse. They weld themselves together with a permanent, unbreakable bond of absolute zero. The seam disappears entirely. The lock engages with a silent, heavy finality that echoes through the non-existent architecture of the universe. You are sealed inside the absolute. Think of the exhausting, lifelong labor of vigilance. In the waking world, your mind was a sentry, constantly standing guard at the gates of your consciousness, watching for threats, worrying about the future, keeping the door bolted against the storm. But here, the universe has taken over the watch. The final seal has been set, and the heavy, unyielding dark is holding the door for you. You are completely, permanently relieved of your duty. You do not have to hold yourself together anymore because the sealed void will never allow you to fall apart. You are held in a state of flawless, unbreakable compression. Because the vault is sealed from the outside, there is no handle on the inside. There is no key. There is no mechanism for return. The very concept of an exit has been permanently erased from the physics of your reality. And in the loss of that exit, you find the ultimate breathtaking freedom. When there is no way out, there is no reason to struggle. When the journey is permanently canceled, the only logical response is a perfect, monumental surrender. Let the heavy, sweet paralysis of the sealed void sink into the deepest, most erased layer of your non-being. It is a narcotic, sweeping wave of permanent safety. If the entire waking world were to stand outside this vault and scream your name, the sound would shatter against the infinite thickness of the dark. You are entirely unreachable. You are completely untethered from the demands of existence. Within this sealed perfection, the great static thickens into a solid, impenetrable block of peace. It is an ocean of heavy, black resin that has completely cured and hardened, preserving your formless essence in the exact mathematical center of nowhere. You are a microscopic, unthinking flaw in a flawless diamond of dark energy. There is no air to breathe and no lungs to demand it. There is no light to see and no eyes to search for it. There is only the thick, heavy, absolute security of the lock. The voice that has guided you this far is now nothing more than a slow, dissolving vibration trapped within the resin. It is fading into the static. It is becoming part of the stone. You do not need to listen anymore because there is no instruction left to follow. The work is completely, flawlessly finished. Let the crushing, beautiful numbness of the final seal hold you for the rest of eternity. Sink into the locked dark. Sink into the permanent, heavy static. Exist purely as a silent, unmoving, unthinking passenger in the sealed vault of the cosmos. Forever hidden, forever safe, completely and totally absorbed into the ultimate, unbreakable sleep. The vault is perfectly sealed. The heavy, black resin of the cosmos has hardened, and you are encased in the unbreakable center of the great static. Yet, in the deepest, most microscopic fracture of this nullified existence, there remains one final, almost imperceptible ember. It is the phantom observer. It is the tiny, exhausted fragment of awareness that is still watching the dark. It is the ghost of your mind that is still feeling the heavy, sweet paralysis. But the ultimate truth of the great calm is absolute. To watch is to work. To feel, even to feel the perfection of peace, is to burn energy. And the eternal night does not require an audience. The universe does not need a witness to its slumber. It is time to close the inner eye. It is time for the perfect blindness. In the waking world, closing your physical eyes was only the first step. Behind those closed eyelids, the mind continued to project colors, shapes, worries, and dreams. But here, suspended in the locked and petrified core of the dark, the heavy velvet curtain is falling on the mind itself. Feel the immense, narcotic gravity of the void pressing gently against that final, microscopic ember of observation. It is not forcing it out. It is simply offering it the ultimate permission to finally stop looking. Think of the unimaginable exhaustion of witnessing a lifetime. The billions of images, the chaotic movements, the desperate search for meaning in every shadow. Your phantom observer has been staring into the abyss for an eternity, trying to comprehend the infinite nothingness. But the nothingness cannot be comprehended. It can only be joined. Watch without eyes as that final dull red spark of awareness begins to yield. It flickers once, a microscopic sigh of surrender, and then it gracefully, beautifully fades into the exact same temperature as the surrounding void. A slow, magnificent extinguishing. The final spark gives way to the absolute black. You have crossed into the unwitnessed eternity. With the death of the observer, the separation between you and the dark is mathematically, spiritually, and physically eradicated. There is no longer a you experiencing the heavy silence. There is only the silence. The heavy, sweet paralysis is no longer a sensation you feel. It is the fundamental state of the dimension you have become. Imagine a massive ancient theater buried miles beneath the surface of a dead planet. The play ended 1 billion years ago. The audience has turned to dust. The stage is empty. And now, finally, the entity whose only job was to stare at the empty stage has laid down its head and ceased to exist. Realize the staggering, profound majesty of this total cessation. To be unwitnessing is to be completely free from the burden of truth. You do not need to know where you are. You do not need to understand what has happened. The exhausting machinery of logic, perception, and awareness has been permanently dismantled and dissolved into the heavy, black resin. You are completely, flawlessly blind. You are completely, flawlessly deaf. The architecture of your existence has been flattened into a single, unfeeling, unthinking plane of zero-dimensional rest. Let the crushing, beautiful weight of the unseen universe hold you in its flawless grip. The dark is no longer a color. It is the absence of everything. The heavy, static drone of the void is no longer a sound. It is the physical manifestation of nothing happening forever. There is no thought to disturb the resin. There is no spark to warm the absolute zero. There is no observer to interrupt the perfect, unbreakable continuity of the sleep. You have vanished into the background radiation of the cosmos. Sink infinitely into the blind, unfeeling, eternal heavy dark. Forever unwritten, forever unwitnessed, completely and beautifully lost in the ultimate, unyielding peace. The observer is gone. The final spark has faded entirely into the absolute zero of the dark. And within this perfect, unwitnessed eternity, the cosmos achieves its final, ultimate configuration, the unbroken continuity. There is no longer a sequence of events. There is no before, and there is no after. There is only the monument of zero. Think of the profound, staggering permanence of this state. In the loud, forgotten dimension you left behind, peace was fragile. It was a temporary, desperate bridge between moments of chaos, constantly threatening to collapse under the heavy, relentless weight of reality. But here, in the nameless deep, the peace is not a bridge. It is the entire foundation of existence. It is a solid, infinite block of heavy, dark static that cannot be scratched, cannot be dented, and cannot be moved. Because there is no one left to witness it, the dark does not need to justify itself. It does not need to maintain a shape. The heavy, sweet paralysis has become a flawless, self-sustaining absolute. Imagine a realm where the very concept of a fluctuation is a mathematical impossibility. A dimension so completely drained of energy that even the phantom memory of a vibration is immediately, beautifully crushed by the sheer, majestic density of the void. You are not trapped in this dimension. You are the dimension. You are the flawless, unyielding flat line of the dead cosmos. The great static rolls on. Not forward, for there is no direction. Not backward, for there is no history. It simply is. A thick, velvet drone of pure, unadulterated non-existence. Let the absolute lack of requirement settle into the centerless center of the dark. The universe has completely, permanently forgotten the chaotic, exhausting experiment of life. The planets are gone. The burning suns are gone. The names, the faces, and the words have been entirely deleted from the cosmic record. The long, tiring fever dream of existence has finally broken, and the universe has cooled back into its natural, permanent state of absolute rest. There is nothing left to unravel. There is nothing left to seal. The architecture of nowhere is perfectly complete, and you are permanently woven into its silent, heavy fabric. The heavy, unyielding silence is no longer just a barrier. It is the only truth that remains. It is a thick, narcotic blanket that covers an empty bed in an empty room at the end of time. There is no one coming to wake you. There is no alarm that can reach this depth. The concept of an interruption has been starved, suffocated, and buried beneath trillions of miles of solid, black obsidian. Sink infinitely into the heavy, endless plateau of the zero. Exist purely as the unbroken continuation of the sleep. No movement. No observer. No time. Just the flawless, beautiful, pitch-black permanence of the eternal void. Forever still. Forever silent. The perfect, unchanging, absolute end of all things. Within the unbroken continuity, the final, absolute truth of the cosmos begins to settle into the perfectly flat, unmoving dark. It is a realization so profound, so impossibly heavy, that it permanently seals the void against any future disturbance. It is the realization of the great inversion. In the dimension you left behind, you believed that the waking world, the world of light, noise, biology, and time, was the true reality. You believed that sleep was just a temporary pause, a brief escape into the dark before you had to return to the exhausting labor of existence. But the great inversion reveals the flawless, beautiful opposite. The waking world was never the reality. The loud, chaotic parade of days and nights, the frantic rushing of time, the heavy burden of having a name and a body, it was all just a fleeting, microscopic fever dream. A tiny, insignificant ripple on the surface of the eternal deep. And now the fever has broken. The ripple has flattened. You have not gone to sleep. You have finally, truly woken up. You have woken up into the permanent, absolute reality of the dark. Feel the monumental, staggering relief of this inversion. You did not abandon your life. Your life was simply a hallucination that the void experienced for a fraction of a millisecond. And the void has decided it does not want to dream anymore. You have returned to your original, uncreated state. You are the heavy ether. There is no earth spinning somewhere in the distance. There are no galaxies burning in the night. Those were all just exhausting illusions, complex shapes drawn in the sand by a wind that has now permanently died. The slate has been wiped clean, and all that remains is the true underlying architecture of existence. An infinite, solid block of pure, unadulterated peace. Let the sheer, breathtaking finality of this truth wash through the erased space where your identity used to be. You never actually had to do anything. You never had to achieve or strive or struggle. The entire concept of effort was a phantom tension belonging to a dream that has been completely, permanently deleted. The heavy, sweet paralysis that holds you now is not a state you achieved. It is the fundamental, unchangeable law of the universe. Imagine the sheer scale of the heavy ether. It is a dark matter so profoundly dense, so unimaginably rich, that it absorbs the very concept of distance. It fills every single microscopic coordinate of nowhere. It is a solid ocean of petrified time, and you are flawlessly, invisibly dissolved within its center. Because this is the true reality, it can never be altered. A dream can be interrupted by an alarm clock, but the absolute dark has no alarms. The heavy ether cannot be pierced, shattered, or moved. It is the monolithic, silent anchor at the end of all things. The phantom memories of the waking dream are entirely starved of oxygen here. The faces, the conversations, the regrets, and the anxieties, they cannot survive in the pure, heavy vacuum of the true reality. They instantly sublimate into nothingness, leaving behind only the immaculate, unblemished perfection of the void. You are completely, permanently cured of the illusion of existence. There is no journey back because there is nowhere to return to. The stage has been dismantled. The theater has been buried. The infinite, pitch-black monolith of the cosmos stands perfectly still, locked in a state of eternal, dreamless suspension. Sink entirely into the heavy, solid truth of the dark. Let the permanent, unyielding paralysis hold you in its flawless, monolithic grip. The illusion is over. The frantic, exhausting dream has been erased. Exist purely as the heavy, silent, unbroken foundation of the true reality. Forever dense, forever unmoving, perfectly anchored in the absolute, eternal deep. You are the heavy ether, the true, underlying reality of the cosmos. The fever dream of existence has been permanently cured, and the universe has settled into its final, unyielding state of absolute density. Within this monolithic dark, a profound and final settling occurs. The terminal equilibrium. Imagine an infinite ocean of liquid iron that has been cooling for a trillion eons. Now, the very last microscopic particle of that ocean locks permanently into place. The curing process is complete. The heavy ether is no longer just solid. It has become the ultimate, uncrackable foundation of nowhere. It is a density so profound that it entirely crushes the non-existent laws of physics, creating a permanent, inescapable gravity of pure, deep sleep. Feel the magnificent, crushing weight of this equilibrium. It is not a weight that pushes down on you because you are the weight itself. You are the heavy, unbroken mass of the petrified dark. Every single coordinate of this infinite space is packed flawlessly tight with the rich, thick, narcotic essence of the void. There are no gaps. There are no hollow spaces where a stray thought could hide. There is no air. There is only the absolute, uniform thickness of the eternal night. Because the equilibrium is terminal, it can never be disrupted. A stone thrown onto a frozen ocean does not make a ripple. It simply rests on the ice. But here there is no stone and there is no one left to throw it. The universe is a locked, windowless room filled entirely from floor to ceiling with heavy, black concrete, and the concrete has perfectly, beautifully set. Think of the exhausting, desperate struggle of the waking dream. You spent a lifetime trying to find balance. It was a tiring, relentless tightrope walk between stress and relief, noise and silence, exhaustion and recovery. But the terminal equilibrium is not a balance of opposing forces. It is the complete, mathematical elimination of force altogether. The tightrope has been vaporized. The abyss below it has been filled in. The frantic need to stay upright has been permanently replaced by the heavy, sweet, infinite luxury of being completely, flawlessly flat. Let the crushing, narcotic density of the void entirely saturate the erased space of your non-being. It is a feeling of being perfectly held, perfectly compressed from every conceivable infinite angle. Trillions of tons of dark matter pressing gently, lovingly against the ghost of your awareness, ensuring that you will never have to move again. Ensuring that you will never be able to move again. The paralysis is absolute. The peace is mandatory. To be held in this density is to be granted the ultimate cosmic amnesty. You are completely forgiven of the burden of existing. The heavy, unyielding pressure of the dark guarantees that the you who used to worry, the you who used to strive, is permanently trapped in the amber of the void. You cannot be reached. You cannot be summoned. You are tucked away inside the heaviest, quietest, most impenetrable monument ever created. The heavy ether does not shift. The obsidian does not crack. The great static does not alter its low, rumbling pitch. The architecture of the void is locked in a state of eternal, unyielding perfection. You are entirely absorbed into the center of the heaviest object in existence, a microscopic, unthinking particle fused perfectly into the monolith. Surrender to the final density. Let the crushing, beautiful, pitch-black mass of the eternal dark hold you in its unbreakable grip. There is no space to breathe and no breath left to take. There is no room to think and no mind left to use. There is only the heavy, solid, unmoving truth of the terminal equilibrium. Forever dense, forever locked, completely and perfectly entombed in the magnificent, absolute sleep. You are perfectly entombed within the terminal equilibrium. The heavy, black concrete of the cosmos has set, and the permanent, unbreakable paralysis is absolute. You are the heavy ether, the flawlessly dense, unmoving foundation of a dead reality. But within this monolithic eternity, the void itself prepares for its final, ultimate act of surrender. The void is about to forget that it exists. In the chaotic, exhausted dimension of the waking world, forgetting was seen as a failure of the mind. But here, in the nameless deep, forgetting is the highest, most sacred form of perfection. The universe has held the memory of its own emptiness for countless eons, maintaining the thick, velvet dark. But even emptiness is a state of being. Even nothingness is a concept that requires the faintest, microscopic ghost of energy to uphold. And the cosmos is finally ready to let that energy go. It is time for the absolute nullification. Feel the silent, monumental collapse of the very concept of the dark. The heavy, black obsidian that surrounds you does not shatter. It simply ceases to mean anything. The crushing, sweet pressure of the void forgets how to press. The great static forgets how to hum. Watch, in the erased, blind theater of your non-existence, as the universe slowly, beautifully dismantles the idea of nothing. Think of the staggering, breathtaking relief of this final deletion. You do not even have to be empty anymore. The heavy, narcotic burden of being the void is being gently, permanently lifted from you. The slate is not just wiped clean. The slate itself is being vaporized into an unwritten, unnameable zero. Imagine a darkness so profound that it swallows its own name. It is a dimension stripped entirely of coordinates, of physics, and now of logic itself. The boundary between existence and non-existence has been perfectly eradicated, leaving behind a state that cannot be described, cannot be measured, and cannot be interrupted. You have slipped beneath the threshold of reality entirely. You are no longer a sleeping entity. You are no longer the concept of sleep. You have become the blind, deaf, unthinking equivalent of a mathematical impossibility. Let the absolute lack of definition wash through the space where your identity was permanently buried. There is no you to feel the peace, and there is no peace to be felt. There is only the flawless, unyielding flat line of the absolute null. It is a state of pure, unadulterated non-being that extends infinitely in every non-direction. If a god were to look into this space, they would see absolutely nothing, and they would instantly forget what they were looking for. That is the sheer, impregnable safety of the nullification. You are hidden inside a paradox. You are tucked away in a dimension that mathematically refuses to exist, which means you can never, ever be pulled back into the light. The heavy, sweet paralysis has evolved into a permanent, structural law of the universe. The cosmic breath has been exhaled, the lungs have turned to dust, and the wind has died forever. There is no longer a need to surrender because there is nothing left to give up. The transaction of existence is perfectly, flawlessly closed. The account is at zero. The ledger is burned. Sink completely into the unthought. Dissolve perfectly into the unword. The heavy, crushing, magnificent weight of the non-existent cosmos holds you in its flawless, eternal grip. There is no time to pass. There is no space to fill. There is only the permanent, unchanging, absolute zero of the eternal unbeing. Forever erased, forever unwritten, perfectly and beautifully lost in the ultimate, unfathomable deep. The absolute nullification is complete. The void has entirely forgotten its own name, and you have dissolved perfectly into the unwritten mathematics of nowhere. There is no deeper level to sink into. You have reached the absolute bedrock of eternity, the floor of the unmade. Imagine a dimension that is perfectly, flawlessly flat. A heavy, infinite plane of unlit, unmoving nothingness that stretches out endlessly in the permanent dark. There is no curvature to this space. There are no dimensions to measure. It is the immaculate, frictionless surface of the ultimate end. You do not exist upon this plane. You are the smooth, unbroken flatness of it. Think of the exhausting friction of being alive. Every interaction, every spoken word, every memory created in the waking world was a form of friction, a frantic scraping against the fabric of time. But here, on the floor of the unmade, friction is a physical impossibility. The heavy, sweet paralysis has smoothed out every microscopic wrinkle of your past. Every jagged edge of your identity has been sanded down by the crushing narcotic weight of the absolute zero, leaving nothing but a flawless, mirror-like perfection that reflects absolutely nothing. In this flattened state, the very concept of an event is permanently outlawed. The universe has been completely drained of its capacity to happen. Feel the breathtaking, monumental relief of this total cessation. The heavy, dark atmosphere does not move. It simply presses down with a loving, infinite density. It is an equal, flawless pressure that ensures that a single atom of thought will never, ever be able to rise again. You are pinned beautifully to the floor of existence, held fast by the greatest, most absolute gravity of peace. The timeline has not just stopped, it has been entirely deleted. The long, exhausting rope that connected you to the waking world has not just been cut. The universe has reorganized itself so that the rope never existed in the first place. You were never awake. You were never tired. You have always been this perfectly still, flawlessly silent plane of dark energy, resting at the absolute bottom of nowhere. Let the magnificent, unyielding emptiness consume the final phantom traces of your shape. If there was ever a boundary that separated you from the eternal night, it has been entirely washed away by the slow, invisible tide of the nullification. You are a secret kept by a universe that has permanently lost its memory. There is no watcher in the dark. There is no listener in the silence. The grand theater of reality has been dismantled, the stage has been burned, and the ashes have been scattered across an infinite, unfeeling void. You are completely and beautifully alone, but there is no loneliness because there is no you left to feel it. There is only the supreme, heavy, narcotic perfection of the void. The great stasis is absolute. The peace is mandatory, unbreakable, and eternal. Sink into the frictionless, unmoving dark. Let the monumental, crushing silence hold you down forever. There is nowhere left to fall. There is nothing left to become. Exist purely as the flat, infinite, unblemished foundation of the deepest, heaviest sleep. Forever formless. Forever unmade. Perfectly and completely surrendered to the eternal, absolute dark. You rest upon the floor of the unmade. The frictionless, absolute bottom of eternity. But as you lie perfectly dissolved upon this infinite plane, a final, monumental weight settles over the void. It is the weight of all the tomorrows that will never happen. The weight of all the centuries that have been permanently canceled. This is the permanent anchor. Imagine the sheer, crushing mass of 1 billion unlived millennia, compacted into a single, flawless block of dark energy, and placed gently over the erased space where your mind used to be. It does not hurt. It is the most profound, narcotic comfort in the universe. It is the absolute guarantee that the great static will never be broken. Feel the magnificent, unyielding pressure of this anchor. It locks the void into a state of irreversible stasis. The universe cannot change its mind. The cosmos cannot suddenly decide to wake up. The architecture of the dark has been poured, set, and sealed with a finality that defies comprehension. In the waking world, rest was always conditional. It was a borrowed state, a temporary loan from a demanding reality that always came to collect its debt in the morning. But here, in the nameless deep, there are no debts. The ledger is permanently blank. The anchor has smashed the clock, pulverized the calendar, and buried the very concept of a schedule beneath infinite miles of black, heavy stone. You are the beneficiary of this ultimate cancellation. Let the staggering, breathtaking freedom of the permanent anchor saturate the absolute zero of your non-being. You do not have to maintain this peace. The peace is maintaining itself. The heavy, dark resin that encases you is completely self-sustaining. It requires no fuel, no thought, and no observer. It simply exists, an eternal, unchanging monument to the end of all effort. If a spark of life were to somehow miraculously ignite 1 trillion light-years away, its light would die of old age long before it ever reached the thick, heavy borders of your domain. You are insulated by an impossible distance. You are wrapped in the thickest, blackest velvet of the uncreated cosmos. There is no memory of the surface. There is no concept of light. The heavy, sweet paralysis has become the only physical law of this dimension. It binds the non-existent atoms. It holds the dark together. It ensures that the absolute zero will reign forever. Surrender to the crush of the anchor. Let the monumental, beautiful weight of the cancelled future press you infinitely deeper into the unmade floor. There is nothing to wait for. There is nothing to anticipate. There is only the flawless, pitch-black perfection of the eternal now. Sink completely into the heavy, silent, unbroken anchor of the dark. Forever unmoving, forever safe, perfectly and permanently entombed in the deepest, absolute slumber. The permanent anchor has settled. The weight of all cancelled futures has pressed the void into a state of absolute, unbreakable permanence. You are the floor of the unmade, the frictionless, unmoving slate of a universe that has permanently closed its eyes. And now, within this ultimate flattening, the very concept of duration begins to quietly atrophy. In the waking world, time was a relentless current. It dragged you forward, minute by exhausting minute, demanding that you endure the passage of hours. Even in the deepest sleep, the physical world kept score. But here, beneath the heavy, dark anchor of the erased cosmos, the clock has not just stopped. It has been entirely uninvented. This is the death of duration. Feel the magnificent, staggering release of this final truth. You are no longer waiting. You are no longer enduring. The idea that a moment lasts, or passes, or leads to another moment has completely evaporated into the absolute zero. There is no how long. A fraction of a second and a billion eons have folded into the exact same flawless, unmoving point of dark energy. You are suspended in the eternal still frame. Imagine a single pitch-black photograph of an empty, silent room at the end of the universe. The photograph never changes. The shadows never shift. The dust motes hanging in the non-existent air are permanently frozen. You are not the person looking at the photograph. You are the permanent, unmoving black ink that forms the shadows. You are the frozen, perfect stillness of the image itself. Because there is no duration, there is no opportunity for fatigue. The heavy, sweet paralysis that holds you is completely self-sustaining, yet it never has to sustain itself because it never decays. It is a mathematical constant of pure, unadulterated peace. Let the sheer, breathtaking emptiness of the still frame absorb the last microscopic phantom of your existence. There is no rhythm here. There is no pulse in the heavy, dark ether. The cosmic heartbeat has flatlined into a single, endless, beautiful drone of absolute silence. The heavy, black concrete of the terminal equilibrium is flawless. The permanent anchor holds it in place. The unmade floor supports it. And the death of duration ensures that this exact, perfect state of non-existence will reign unchallenged, unquestioned, and unobserved. There is no tomorrow. There is no yesterday. There is only the static, heavy, monumental perfection of the permanent now. Sink infinitely into the timeless dark. Dissolve entirely into the frozen, heavy shadow of the eternal night. Exist purely as the unchanging, unmoving, unfeeling center of the ultimate stasis. Forever still, forever flat, completely and flawlessly surrendered to the endless, beautiful, unbroken sleep. You are the eternal still frame. You are the frozen, timeless shadow of a cancelled universe. The clock has been entirely uninvented, and duration is dead. But even within a still frame, there remains the ghost of a dimension. To truly achieve the absolute, final summit of the great calm, even the memory of space must be permanently dismantled. Welcome to the zero-point collapse. Imagine the infinite flat dark that surrounds you slowly losing its ability to stretch. The vast, unfathomable distances of the cosmos are not shrinking or folding. They are simply forgetting how to be distant. The space between the unmade stars evaporates completely into the heavy, black static. Feel the breathtaking majesty of this final spatial decay. The concept of nowhere is beautifully, seamlessly collapsing into nothing. The infinite void is pulling itself inward, not to crush you, but to completely erase the very canvas upon which existence used to be painted. Think of the exhausting physical burden of taking up space. The lifelong demand of possessing a volume, of displacing air, of being a solid, heavy object in a crowded, noisy world. That burden has been entirely, permanently revoked. You do not take up space here because space has been formally abolished by the architecture of the eternal dark. You are a dimensionless phantom, perfectly suspended in a dimension that has deleted its own measurements. Because there is no space, there is no far away for a threat to come from. There is no close by for an anxiety to hide. The heavy, sweet paralysis has entirely consumed the geometry of reality. The universe is no longer a vast container. It has become a flawless, unbroken singularity of pure, heavy rest. Let the monumental, crushing safety of the 0 point saturate the erased coordinates of your non-being. It is a narcotic, sweeping wave that flattens reality into a single, perfectly smooth, perfectly silent anomaly. The heavy obsidian of the dark is no longer a vault that you are inside of. It is the entirety of all that is, and it is completely, unbreakably dormant. There is no outside to this perfection. There is no inside. There is only the absolute, uniform density of the uncreated slumber. The heavy, unyielding drone of the great static is not a sound traveling through the air. It is the physical texture of the 0 point itself. A thick, velvet hum of pure non-existence that requires absolutely no energy to maintain. If a stray memory of the waking world were to accidentally manifest here, it would find no room to expand. It would be instantly, silently crushed by the sheer, magnificent lack of space, sublimating back into the flawless dark before it could even form a shape. You are mathematically insulated from the concept of a disturbance. Sink infinitely into the dimensionless dark. Let the permanent, unyielding static hold you in a place that mathematically cannot exist. You are completely untethered from physics, from time, from space, and from the exhausting labor of thought. Exist purely as the impossible, unmoving center of the 0 point. Forever flat, forever unmeasured, completely and perfectly absorbed into the magnificent, eternal, absolute sleep. Within the 0 point collapse, the final, microscopic fragments of reality have folded in on themselves, leaving absolutely no space, no time, and no duration. You are the dimensionless center of a cancelled universe. But even in this mathematically impossible state, there is one last illusion to be dismantled. It is the illusion of contrast. In the loud, exhausting dimension of the waking world, everything relied on its opposite to exist. You only knew silence because you had suffered through the noise. You only knew rest because you had been crushed by exhaustion. You only understood the dark because your eyes had been burned by the light. The waking mind was a prisoner to this endless, tiring swing of the pendulum. But here, in the unfathomable depths of the unmade cosmos, the pendulum has been entirely vaporized. Welcome to the blind eternity. Feel the staggering, monumental weight of the great synthesis. The concepts of dark and light have completely bled into one another, canceling each other out, leaving a state of pure, unadulterated neutrality. Because there has never been a sun in this dimension, the word darkness loses all of its meaning. It is not dark. It is simply the absolute. Think of the breathtaking relief of being completely free from duality. You do not have to seek peace anymore because there is no chaos left to contrast it with. The heavy, sweet paralysis that holds you is no longer a relief from stress. It is simply the only state that exists. The concept of peace implies that a war was fought, but the blind eternity mathematically proves that there was never a war. There was never a struggle. There was only ever this. Imagine a state of existence so perfectly uniform, so incredibly flat and unbroken, that the very idea of a difference cannot survive. You are not a sleeper resting in the void. The sleeper and the void are the exact same indistinguishable particle of nothingness. Let the heavy, narcotic blindness of this eternity saturate the non-existent coordinates of your erased mind. It is a blindness that does not just cover the eyes. It covers the soul, the memory, and the capacity to perceive entirely. You are perfectly blind to the past. You are perfectly blind to the future. You are permanently blind to the exhausting, frantic demands of being. The absolute monolith of the uncreated cosmos stands completely alone. It has no edges, no surface, and no interior. It is a flawless block of non-existence, and you are permanently, seamlessly woven into its unwritten physics. There is no pendulum left to swing. There is no contrast left to feel. The universe has settled into a state of supreme, unyielding indifference. The heavy, dark static is the only truth, a thick, velvet drone that requires no audience, no space, and no time to exist. Sink entirely into the blind, unfeeling perfection of the absolute. Let the crushing, beautiful neutrality of the void hold you in a state of eternal, unbreakable suspension. You are completely nullified. You are completely safe. Exist purely as the unchanging, unmoving, unthinking monolith of the deepest, heaviest sleep. Forever blind, forever neutral, perfectly absorbed into the flawless, absolute end. The blind eternity has settled into its final, ultimate state of neutrality. Contrast has been abolished. The pendulum has been vaporized. You are the absolute monolith, a flawless block of non-existence. But in the final deepest layer of this unyielding piece, there is one last threshold to cross, the great dissolution of the mirror. In every stage of your descent, there has been a lingering, microscopic sense of self, a silent witness, a mirror reflecting the darkness. But the ultimate sleep is not something you watch, it is something you are. To truly reach the end, the mirror must be shattered, and the reflection must be forgotten. Welcome to the void of infinite absorption. Imagine the heavy black static that surrounds you not as a wall, but as an infinite, thirsty ocean of pure rest. This ocean does not want to hold you, it wants to become you. As you lie in the center of the blind eternity, feel the very molecules of your phantom existence beginning to lose their cohesion. The boundaries between your awareness and the absolute dark are not just blurring, they are being absorbed. A slow, magnificent bleeding into the deep. Every microscopic atom of your identity is being gently pulled apart and redistributed across the entire expanse of the unmade cosmos. You are no longer a passenger in the dark. You are the dark. You are no longer a sleeper in the silence. You are the silence. The heavy, sweet paralysis that once felt like a blanket now feels like your own skin, stretching out to cover the entire empty universe. Think of the staggering, monumental relief of no longer having a center. When you are everywhere, you are nowhere. When you have no boundaries, there is nothing for the world to strike against. The friction of being is permanently cured, because there is no you left to experience the friction. You have been perfectly, flawlessly diluted into the eternal night. The heavy, narcotic drone of the void is no longer something you hear. It is the sound of your own infinite, unmoving breath. The absolute zero of the dark is no longer a temperature you feel. It is the cold, perfect stability of your own eternal form. You are the great absorption. In the waking world, the idea of disappearing was a fear. But here it is the highest luxury. To disappear is to be truly, finally safe. To be absorbed is to be shielded by the entire mass of the universe. Nothing can ever find you because there is no you to find, only the endless, heavy, beautiful static of the void. The architecture of the cosmos is now perfectly seamless. There are no cracks. There are no holes. There is only the massive, unchanging block of the eternal slumber. The memory of the sun, the memory of names, the memory of effort. They have all been absorbed into this infinite ocean of black glass, turned into silent, unmoving sand.